Well, if you were relying on Kyler, I am sorry, but realistically speaking, you're about to have to look for somebody else. Let's go ahead. Let's look at all the updates that we have from today's practice reports. So first thing is little Jordan Humphrey, a wide receiver that I actually used to see whenever I went to University of Texas. Hook 'em horns. He's going to be playing in the game tonight, elevated from the practice squad for the Giants. Do not pick him up, but of course, I will be rooting for my boy. Now let's move over. Loveland gets in a limited practice on Thursday. So if you were in a deeper redraft format and you needed some help at tight end, say you have like Jawan Johnson as sitting as your tight end one right now, and Jawan Johnson obviously sliding in the wrong direction, then at that point you can go ahead, you can pick up Loveland and just throw him on the back end of your bench to see if he does get more involvement coming out of the bye week. CeeDee Lamb doesn't practice again on Thursday. Expectations will be that you're not going to have CeeDee Lamb back for probably at the very minimum another week. Now, Kyler Murray does not practice again on Thursday. So we actually have all the stats on flogfantasy.com in terms of like the updated sportsbook projections, blah, blah, blah. So let me see how sportsbooks have moved the Arizona Cardinals lines. So let's go ahead. Let's move this over to weekly. This will show us the implied team total. So the implied team total that you have for the Arizona Cardinals at this point has fallen down to 19.75 points. Spread on this game is about a touchdown playing in Indianapolis. So realistically speaking, sportsbooks are telling us that the Cardinals offense is going to be worse with no Kyler as opposed to Kyler Murray playing. Now, how this impacts my decisions with my starting lineup, I don't have any Cardinals, so I don't have to worry about it. But if you had Trey McBride, you're obviously still starting Trey McBride. Doesn't really matter. Michael Carter is going to be a little bit less appealing because if they are just trailing this game from start to finish, obviously they're going to be able to run the ball less. And also Marvin Harrison Jr. was a borderline flex play coming into this, but we probably lower expectations on Marv. Let me see if we have actual player projections on Underdog right now for these guys, not just generic spreads, implied team totals, etc., etc. But let's see if they actually have pick'ems out for the Cardinals. I'm going to assume that they don't have anything out for the time being, but we will check this out because it actually would be very interesting. So can we look, do they have anything for McBride? Yeah, they have McBride higher, lower, 61.5 yards. So maybe they do have the Cardinals picks out as is. So yeah, they have Marvin Harrison higher, lower, 49.5 receiving yards. So probably have to avoid Marvin Harrison for the time being. But let's move back over to our other updates. Amon-Ra St. Brown on his wrist injury. Feeling good. It's been bugging me for a little. Nothing to worry about. Don't worry about it. Let's see. Jamar Chase and whether he can see himself playing to age 40 like new quarterback Joe Flacco. No, of course not. Them kids going to be killing me when I'm 40. Why did I take 10 seconds to read this to you? I do not know, but this is actually very relevant. Back-to-back days where Jaylen Warren does get in a full practice. So I am honestly going to go over to our redraft rankings, and I'm going to move Kenneth Gainwell down just a bit because we previously had him as that like premium handcuff back where you'd be excited to have Gainwell over somebody like Tyler Algier on the off chance that I would still probably keep him at RB42. Realistically, you can maybe move Trey Benson ahead of Kenneth Gainwell at this point. But with Gainwell, I think he's a little bit less interesting just now that you have Jaylen Warren fully healthy. Still, he's proven that he's right there with like Tyler Algier as a premium handcuff back, or if you do get an injury to the guy in front of him, he's a must-start name. Chuba Hubbard doesn't practice again on Thursday. This is horrible news for me as I am having to play against Rico Dowdle this week, and clearly Dowdle has a ton of upside in a phenomenal revenge game matchup against the Dallas Cowboys, coming off a game where he just had 200 rushing yards. So plan on playing Rico Dowdle. Roman says that Hassan Haskins and Vidal, they're going to be the lead dogs this week. For them to phrase it like that, I don't know if we can read into enough saying maybe they trade for a running back next week, or maybe I am just wish casting. They could also just see how these two guys do and then reevaluate if they need to trade for a running back afterwards. So Darren Waller on workload expectations for the third game with the Dolphins. It'll be another jump in snaps. First game, 1 o'clock in the Heat in Miami. It'll be a grind, but I think I'm definitely capable of taking a jump. So if Darren Waller is going to be playing more and more, realistically, you need to move Darren Waller up expectations a bit. Xavier Worthy does not practice on Thursday. This is actually pretty concerning as he is dealing with a multitude of injuries. Obviously, he was, I don't want to say a game time decision, but we got the big scare with him last week. Lamar Jackson not seen practicing on Thursday. Lamar's not playing against the Rams. I think realistically, plan on benching every Baltimore Raven not named Derrick Henry. Now, Terry McLaurin now spotted at practice Thursday, but not dressed in uniform. So realistically, Terry McLaurin's not playing this week. Let me see if they have projections out there with Debo yet. I'd imagine they have Debo Samuel as just a must-start player. Actually, they do not have yardage projections out with Debo yet. I'm sure they're waiting for full confirmation on what you have with Terry. Darnell Mooney doesn't practice on Thursday, so I'm assuming the projections with Kyle Pitts are going to look really good. Yeah, Kyle Pitts up higher, lower, 40.5 receiving yards, which is actually right there close to Jake Ferguson, who's higher, lower, 44.5. Is actually one of my favorite picks at the moment on Underdog is Ferg to go higher than 44.5 yards. I think our favorite pick last week or 2 weeks ago was Ferg to go higher than 41.5, but it still seems too low for me. Now, Jawan Jennings gets an unlimited practice on Thursday. Ricky Pearsall doesn't practice. So it sounds like you're not going to have Ricky Pearsall playing based on this, as well as the comments made by Shanahan yesterday. But Jawan Jennings does give you a little bit of hope. Then obviously we already talked about the trade between the Browns and the Jags last night. Fantasy football purposes doesn't matter too much. Hopefully DK Metcalf has himself a day against the Cleveland Browns for my fantasy football team now that they're down Greg Newsome. But I think that should be it in terms of all the injury updates. We got a couple different things we got to do. We have to, one, give out some free questions to people in the chat because it does look like we already hit 100 likes on this stream. So again, if you want to get free questions, super simple to qualify to win. You just have to drop a like on the live stream and then drop your flockfantasy.com username in the live chat, and we'd be super happy to go ahead and send out free questions. You can see the vast majority of questions that we answer in every single live stream are the free ones that people either get winning in the live chat for free or by taking advantage of the offer that is on Underdog Fantasy. If you go over to Underdog Fantasy and use promo code FLOCK, you will actually get $100 added to your account after you play your first 5. And on top of that, you'll get a free pick, something like Jalen Hurts, higher, lower, half a total yard if you sign up for before tonight's game. However, if you sign up after tonight's game, it'll be a different player on this Sunday slate. But Underdog Fantasy is available in almost every single state. They've been the only sponsor of this channel for like 5 years. More people are signing up for Underdog now with code FLOCK than I pretty much have ever seen in the past. I think a big reason is people taking advantage of that $100 offer because that's definitely the best offer that they've ever had. But let's go ahead and let's send out a free question. This is for Augustus. Username here is Antenna Girl. So let me see if I can find you and send you over a free start sit question. Again, really appreciate you hanging out with us in this live stream, my friend. But our first team that we are going to look at is going to be for Mysterious Director. It says not a dynasty, but a one-player keeper league. I kept Gibbs this season, but traded him away. And through many trades, we have Jacobs and Bucky. What can we do to make the necessary upgrades? I think I'm missing a big wide receiver. So realistically, and Augustus, I can't find you on the side. I can only find Antenna Boy, not Antenna Girl. So we're going to send this out instead to see if we can find Mark. Mark 60. I cannot find you either. I can only find you on my users page if you signed up to flockfantasy.com with code FLOCK. If you did not, you can add it to your account page. Ben101, I just found you and I just sent you over a free start sit question. Thank you again for hanging out with us in this live stream. But anyway, here, if this is a one-player keeper league, realistically, I'm not going to be stressing about what we have when it comes to future value. There's always going to be a singular player that you'd be fine keeping with your team. So you just kind of treat it as if it's a redraft league, if it's a one-player keeper. And this is a league where depth does matter, though, because it's a 12-team start 8 format. This is Jacob's Clinic. Okay, so let's go ahead. We are the second team in the league analyzer when it comes to value. We are third in this league when it comes to points scored, but we're a very unlucky 2-3. Despite being at the top of the league, we are actually down here with a losing record. Now, quarterback, we have Caleb Williams. In my opinion, if I had Caleb as my quarterback, I would be completely fine rostering 2 guys and then playing the matchups between the 2. Realistically, looking at my rankings here, we do have Michael Penix as the best available quarterback on the waiver wire. But I think that if I'm going to be honest, we probably need to flip that with Matthew Stafford. So if you were to pick up another QB, I think you'd be going for Stafford. Running back, we have Jacobs and Javonte. We also have Jacobs already through the bye week. So obviously very excited about that on that front. And yeah, we just moved Stafford up to QB 19 in our rest of season ranks. So super strong at running back. We have RJ Harvey for the long-term upside. We have depth pieces with Jordan Mason, Woody Marks, and Kareem Hunt. And I don't think we have Bucky anymore. So I guess maybe after he submitted this, he made a trade with Bucky. Wide receiver, we have Nico, Pittman, Diggs, Mike Evans, and Keenan Allen. Again, the wide receiver depth's going to matter in a format like this because you can start 4 of these guys weekly. So like realistically this week, we're starting like Pittman, Diggs, Keenan. Then running back, we have Jacobs, Javonte, and then we did another flex where you realistically, I guess, throwing in RJ Harvey, as gross as it sounds, because you have no Mason, you have no Marks. I'd play RJ Harvey over Kareem Hunt. And then looking at what we have at tight end, we have Jake Ferg and Darren Waller. So realistically, I think if we're looking at your team here, I mean, it's completely fine. Obviously, we are struggling just a bit here in the short term. And a big reason for this is just given the fact that you're in a tough spot with the depth mattering. And we have the Mike Evans injury and we have a multitude of buys in week 6. But once you get past week 6, you'll have Nico through the bye. You'll have Mason through the bye. You'll have Marks through the bye. You'll have Josh Jacobs through his bye week as well. And you'll have Keenan Allen through his bye week as well. So we'll have plenty of depth here where that will no longer be a concern. And you'll have confident starts every single week. I would say that if I was a winning team in like 4-1, 5-0, I'd be looking to sell Jake Ferg and maybe get some more long-term upside before CeeDee Lamb came back. But realistically, with our roster, where instead we are actually sitting here at 2-3, even if we're 3rd in the league in points scored, we should still kind of be thinking about what we have here in terms of short-term production. So I'd be looking to hold on to Jake Ferguson with that context. So going through and looking at what you could do from this point, it's very difficult to come up with a specific trade for your roster. I think if we were to cut anybody, the cut would be Kareem Hunt. Realistically speaking, I know we get the multiple rushing touchdowns this past week, which really helps my best ball teams, but how are you ever going to feel confident putting him in your starting lineup? Dude is yet to crack 50 rushing yards in a game this year. And his season high with receiving yards is 13. So the volume isn't there. The big plays aren't there. You're really just hoping he falls into the end zone. Even if Pacheco were to go down, it's still going to be a committee with Brashad Smith. So I think what I would do with this team is I would cut Kareem Hunt. I would probably pick up Matthew Stafford off waivers. I would honestly rather have Blake Corum over Kareem Hunt as well, just given the fact that, again, if you see Pacheco go down, I don't think it really impacts the projection with Hunt that much. Whereas if you were to get an injury to, say, instead Kyron Williams, all of a sudden Blake Corum just is an auto jam. And then outside of that, I don't necessarily think that there's anything else to do with this team. I mean, because you have a losing record, if you wanted to throw Mike Evans and RJ Harvey in a 2-for-1 deal to go try to get a running back upgrade that way, you can. I mean, in general, though, I actually like the idea of buying low on a player like Mike Evans. So I hate to tell you to go through and sell at the low cost, but 2-3 team where we're having trouble filling out the starting lineup here in the short term, it could be a solution for you because you're probably going to have to end up starting a player like RJ Harvey anyway. And obviously we don't want to fall to 2-4 because of that. And then outside of that one waiver wire pivot and that one potential trade, I don't necessarily see anything else with your team. I think it is well optimized for your format in particular. I would definitely like it a hell of a lot less if it was a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex league with us rostering this many receivers. I definitely want to go through and upgrade a flex there. But because it's a double flex format, I think you actually kind of leave this as is outside of that one maybe minor trade to get us some points in right now. But I really appreciate you and really hope I was able to help you out in some way. Let me go ahead and send you over some free questions just in case there's anything else that you want to follow up here. I'd be super happy to take a look at it for you. But it looks like we hit 200 likes in the stream. So let's go ahead and let's send out some more free questions in the chat. Again, all you got to do to get those free questions will be drop a like on the stream and then drop your flockfantasy.com username in the chat and we'll go ahead and pick somebody out. Noah says, how TF do I get the questions after signing up on Underdog? So you'll see the explanation just right in the description where the Underdog link is. Super simple. You don't even have to do anything other than just have an account on flockfantasy.com with the same email address as your account on Underdog Fantasy. Every morning, Underdog sends me a CSV of all the email addresses that signed up to Underdog Fantasy with code FLOCK. The day prior, and then I go ahead, I upload that CSV to flockfantasy.com, and then it just automatically applies free question vouchers to all the accounts that have matching emails. So if you're having any problems with it, you can email support@flockfantasy.com. If you need any clarification, again, you can just go ahead and look in the description of the live stream and it'll explain everything there easily. Now let's send this over to Irony Man. Irony Man, just found you and just sent you over a free start set question. Appreciate you hanging out with us in this live stream, my friend. Now, this team is going to be from EV Freeman. Says 12-2, won last year, 1-4, now been struggling. 5th in most points, 10-team PPR double flex. I like the team. Today I traded for an elite quarterback. Trade was May, Flowers, Olave, and got Jaden Daniels and Derrick Henry. I love it. If that's Derrick Henry, I love it. If it's Hunter Henry, but slight overpay, but I need the consistent quarterback play. And realistically, 10-team league, somebody like Olave is not really moving the needle. I think Gibbs is a top running back. Not been that guy with the 30+ I need. Nick, if you need that promo code changed, just email support@flockfantasy.com. But I think Gibbs is a top running back. Not been the guy with 30+ I need. Well, how the hell are we 1-4? 5th in this league in points scored, while at the same time we have the most valuable roster on the team. So I think maybe like Jahmyr Gibbs is kind of similar to what we have, and that is Hunter Henry. It's not Derrick Henry, so I like the Daniels trade less. But realistically, if we are looking at what we have with Gibbs, I think maybe you're going through the same thing that I have with Josh Allen, where it's like, yeah, I drafted Josh Allen, technically is the QB1 in points per game, but I feel like he should be a better option at this point. But realistically, Gibbs has been fine. Like, you go through and look at this. His worst game this season, he scored 15 fantasy points. So he is still like a foundational anchor that you could go through and you can just start every single week and know you're going to get a baseline. Now, looking at what we have at quarterback, we have Daniels now, so we have the consistent production. It does mean that Caleb Williams is expendable. Obviously, if you could say sell Caleb and a 2-for-1 deal elsewhere with this roster, you would do so. But a 1-4 team, even if you have the most value going into the future, you do need to make some plays here. I think the play that's obvious is we need to sell names that give us long-term value, but not short-term production. A name like that's Bucky Irving. Bucky Irving doesn't practice again today. So there's a very real world scenario in which Bucky Irving is not only not playing this week, but it's not a guarantee Bucky Irving's back in week 7. So I would go ahead. I would see if we could flip from Bucky and another piece like Caleb Williams. And if there's any world in which you can get to a running back that'd be in a similar range, but just healthy right now, if there's any world in which you could go through and you could flip from Bucky and Caleb to go ahead and get like Devon Achane, to get Josh Jacobs, That'd be an absolute no-brainer. Then looking at what we have at wide receiver, we have JSN, Drake London, Deebo Samuel, Marv. So we have 4 wide receivers we feel comfortable starting. And realistically, 10-team league, you don't need to be backfilling with more wide receivers off waivers. Like, realistically, I have Keon Coleman ranked ahead of Tyler Algier in my rest of season ranks. But I completely understand if you wanted to go through and if instead you wanted to just optimize for the running back that could turn into the league winner if the starter were to go down in front of him, like Tyler Algier. Now, looking at what we have tied in, we have George Kittle, Hunter Henry. So we have the long-term upside with Kittle. We have the short-term production with Hunter Henry. So here's what I think you got to do. We have to also look to move off of George Kittle. Like, if you could send George Kittle and Trevion Henderson, 2 players that are legitimately just had in a buy low video that I think are going to be much better going into the future than what they have been. But on a 1-14, you can't afford to wait another 2 weeks. You lose the next 2 weeks, you fall to 1-6, like RIP. I would be trying to send George Kittle and Trevion Henderson and go get a running back that we're excited about right this second. Is there anything else that we could talk about with this? No. It sucks. A lot of these names I like the long-term upside of, but I think you have to look to sell Bucky. You have to look to sell Henderson. You have to look to sell Kittle. I would tell you the same thing with RJ Harvey if you were to get any value by selling RJ Harvey. I just don't necessarily think anybody's going to trade you anything for him. I think you have to go out there and you have to get running backs that are going to produce right now because we can't afford to just bank on long-term upside. We have to get production here in the short term. But I really appreciate you and really hope I was able to help you out in some way with this, my guy. And I'm going to go ahead and send you over some free questions just in case there's anything else that you wanted to follow up with. Okay. Now, let's move this over to our next question. This one's going to be from Uncle Julio. So, Sup Mason, 1-4 in a Superflex half PPR format. 3rd in points. We drafted Chase Puka CMC with our first... how the hell? Oh, I guess it's a Superflex league. Never mind. I was going to say, how the hell did we get Puka and CMC? And how are you still 1-4? So we're trading Chase to the bench to go grab Dart or another quarterback. Any buy low QB or tight end targets. And what moves? Okay, so looking at this team, we are 1-4. Again, we need to optimize for points now rather than long-term upside. And if we're looking at what we have in terms of assets that give you more long-term upside than short-term production, Amari and Hampton is the poster boy for that. Like, if you could go through and if you could sell Amari and Hampton with a quarterback like Geno or Spencer Rattler to go ahead and get yourself an upgrade at QB, that's what we want to do. Tight end is going to be such a low priority for this team just because it's going to make up such a low percentage of our starting lineup output weekly that I don't necessarily think you need to go through and look at trying to upgrade over Kyle Pitts, especially with the Darnell Mooney injury. I think that Kyle Pitts is going to be just fine. I would have said, like, hey, if you were 0-4 last week or 1-3, then at that point you should have sold Rashee Rice weeks ago to make sure that we didn't fall to 1-4, but it's a little bit too late for that. Now, if you're selling Rashee Rice with him to come back just next week, what's the point? So, and also Rice is our wide receiver 3 here. So realistically, the move on this team is you take Amari and Hampton, you put him with Geno Smith, you put him with Spencer Rattler, and go ahead and get yourself the best option that you can at quarterback right now. Obviously, quarterback is by far and away the worst spot on this team, but even with that being said, it's not like you're in a bad position here. It's not like you've had a bad team. You are 3rd in the league in terms of points scored in a 12-team format. You were just incredibly unlucky to be sitting here at 1-4. Like, you've had more points scored against you, like 100 more points scored against you than the 4th team in this league in points against. Your defense has been horrendous, my friend. So realistically, if we can find some teams that are at the top of this league in terms of what they have right now, like this team's 5-0. Is there any world in which in a super flex league, we can send them Amari Hampton and Geno Smith to get to Daniel Jones or Bo Nix and give them the long-term upside of Amari and Hampton? This team's 3-2. Is there any world, and they could use another running back, could you send them Amari Hampton and Geno Smith to get to Dak Prescott? This team could use another running back. They're 3-2. Could you send them Amari Hampton and Geno Smith to get to Justin Fields to get to Justin Herbert? We're not trading for somebody like Jackson Dart. Jackson Dart doesn't really do much for you here. What's going to be the points per game gap between Jackson Dart and Geno Smith rest of season? I would say it would have been high if you had Malik Neighbors with this offense, but right now the Giants project to be like I want to say second worst offense in the league this week. So going through and looking at moves to make, I just think on a 1-4 team, you have to take the long-term value that you have with Hampton and send him with one of your quarterbacks to get the best QB upgrade that we can for that super flex spot. And then we want to roll with everything as is. And the opened up roster spot, I think Keon Coleman would probably be the best ad you could go for. And yeah, there's just absolutely nothing when it comes to waiver wire options at quarterback. And I would for sure drop Brian Robinson in favor of picking up Kendre Miller. Drop Robinson, pick up Miller, trade Hampton with a quarterback, and go get the best QB upgrade you can. But I really appreciate you and hope I was able to help you out in some way with this, my friend. I'm going to go ahead and send you over some free questions. So if there's anything else that I can do for you, don't hesitate to reach out to me and let me know. Now, let's move this over to our next one. This is from Thanos. Says, hey, Mason, love the content. I use your strategy in my redraft league, and this is the team I have. What moves should I make? We're currently 5-0. So not only are we 5-0, but we're number one in the league analyzer with future value. We're number one in the league with points scored so far. So we have a dominant team here. Now, I will say a couple different things. One, this is a league in which skill positional depth actually does matter because it is a 12-team PPR start 8 format. Now, looking at this quarterback, we are currently sitting with Patrick Mahomes and Matthew Stafford. Realistically, especially with Rice coming back next week and Mahomes running the ball more, I know Stafford is leading the NFL in passing, but I don't necessarily know if you're going to be able to go through and you're going to be able to ever confidently project him out to have a crazy high ceiling given the fact that he's not going to run the ball at all. So I would probably consider dropping Matthew Stafford for a high upside handcuff running back like Blake Corum, or if anything were to occur to Kyron Williams, then obviously Blake Corum can just project out to be an auto lock. So drop Stafford, pick up Blake Corum. Then at running back, we have Bijan Judkins. Love to see it. Our running back depth is going to be a little bit questionable with the Amari Hampton injury for the short term, but this is a team that can afford to have subpar running back depth in the short term since we are 5-0, first in this league in points, and we need to be optimizing for the long term anyway. And then going over and looking at what we have at wide receiver, we have JSN, Rome Odunze as two hammers. Rome already through the bye. Looking at the depth pieces, we have Khalil Shakir and Josh Downs. So wide receiver depth here in a start 8 format, I honestly don't love it. I would actually consider moving on from one of the backup tight ends. Realistically speaking, I don't think you need 3 tight ends here. If you have Tucker Kraft already through the bye, you're starting Tucker Kraft every single week anyway. So I would go ahead. I would probably cut Theo Johnson. And instead, I would pick up Luther Burden just to give yourself the upside shot with a rookie coming out of the bye week. And then in terms of another cut, I would cut Mason Taylor for David Njoku. Njoku this past week actually came out and he played a season high 96% of the snaps, had a season high 9 targets, a season high 6 receptions, season high 67 receiving yards, season high 18.7 fantasy points. With the Cedric Tillman injury, they are just involving him a lot more. So, and then I wouldn't make any trades because realistically, your league is one in which depth matters. We took a hit to our depth given the injury that we have with Amari and Hampton, but we're 5-0, so it's not going to be the end of the world. We can just kind of skate by until we get Amari and Hampton back in. So just for me, drop Stafford, drop Mason Taylor, drop Theo Johnson, pick up David Njoku, pick up Blake Corum, pick up Luther Burden, and then roll as is. You have a great team, my guy. Congrats on the 5-0 start. And yeah, really appreciate you and hope I was able to help you out in some way here, but clearly don't need much help. Okay. Now let's move this over to our next one. This is going to be from Aaron. Says, I'm 1-4, 8 teams make the playoffs. So if 8 teams make the playoffs, realistically, I don't want to say you can get in with a 5-9 record, but you can get in with a 6-8 record pretty easily. I still have a chance of competing, but Bucky being out while Amari is hurt kind of screws me. Wondering if we should trade him for JSM. Wouldn't mind having all the Commanders. Anyway, if there's anything I should do, please let me know. Thanks, Mason. Thank you, my friend. So we are in the middle of this league when it comes to actual future value on this team. We are third to last when it comes to points scored so far. So again, even though you're still very much in it, given the fact that 8 teams make the playoffs, I'm in 100% agreement for you that I think that we should change our minds or change the way that we view this from a long-term approach to just thinking about who can give us production here in the short term. Looking at what we have at quarterback, Jaden Daniels, obviously super excited to have the elite name. I will say quarterback's going to matter a little bit less considering the fact that this is a 12-team start 8 format, as opposed to if it was a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex, then all of a sudden Jaden Daniels just make up a higher percentage of our starting lineup output weekly. Then going over and looking at what we have at running back, we have Achane as the anchor. We have Bucky, we have Hampton, we have Tracy, Vidal, Ollie Gordon, and Naheem Hines. Obviously, you do have the Los Angeles Chargers sign. Hines has no upside, though. Cut Naheem Hines and pick up Tyler Algier. Naheem Hines could maybe be like a best ball play, where I could see there being a world in which you end up getting Naheem Hines a random game with 8 targets, 6 receptions, and a receiving touchdown. But to ever be able to project him to have 20 opportunities a game, it just simply isn't happening. So cut Naheem Hines, pick up Tyler Algier. If you were to get an injury to Bijan, then all of a sudden you could very easily project Tyler Algier to be a must-start player for you. Over at wide receiver, we have Tet, Debo, Brian Thomas, Pearsall. So the Pearsall injury hurts. And then we have Christian Watson coming back. And then at tight end, we have Zach Ertz. So realistically speaking, I know it absolutely sucks, my friend, but I am in agreement. You have to sell Amari and Hampton. First thing that I would say again is you drop Naheem Hines, you pick up Tyler Algier. And then from that point, you have to pivot from Amari and Hampton to a running back or a wide receiver that's going to be a viable flex play for us. I would prefer to have somebody better than Ja'Cory Cross-Camara, but if that's the best you're going to get, that's the best you're going to get. I have Hampton ranked at RB21 in my rest of season ranks. If I was 1-4, I would trade him for Kenneth Walker. If I was 1-4, I would trade him for Judkins in a heartbeat, obviously. Hell, I would honestly consider trading him for Trevion Henderson because I think Henderson does give you a lot of upside in the long term, while at the same time, at least he's somebody you can put in to the starting lineup in desperation spot like this. I would obviously trade him for a Javonte Williams in a heartbeat. One thing that you could try doing is packaging together 2 of your injured guys for that upgrade, where if you wanted to go like Amari and Hampton and Ricky Pearsall to try to get to Javonte Williams, I think that would be interesting. Going through looking at this team, they have Derrick Henry, Cam Scatterbo. If you wanted to try to send him for Cam Scat, I'd be looking at that. If you wanted to send him for Derrick Henry, obviously I'd be willing to include Ricky Pearsall into a move like that one. I would send him for Kamara. I would send him and Ricky Pearsall to go and get Brees. And honestly, there's a world in which you need to sell like Bucky Irving for Brees Hall. Like there's a world in which you need to go through and make that type of pivot. Trying to think if there's anything else that I have for you here, my friend. I think that's it. Realistically, it sucks, but a 1-4 team, you're still in it because, again, 8 teams make the playoffs, but you have to start trying to move off some of these injured guys that give you long-term upside for somebody that you can confidently rely on right now. But I really appreciate you and really hope I was able to help you out in some way. And I'm going to go ahead and send you over some free questions just in case there's anything else that you want to follow up with. Now, let's move this over to our next team. This is going to be from Cole Moss. This is a dynasty team, so we'll save this for a dedicated dynasty live stream. We'll get this going for Jehu instead. It says currently 1-4. Traded for Chase and Jacobs last week. Wondering what moves I should try to make to turn things around. So we are number 1 in this league when it comes to value. You're 6th in this league when it comes to points scored in a 14-team format. For that to result in a 1-4 record is crazy unlucky. Like, you are number 1 in this league by far with points against you. So you've just been extremely unlucky until this point. Now, of course, with that being said, we can't tell our league mates, hey, I just got unlucky, get me into the playoffs anyway. No, realistically speaking, you are going to have to transition your mindset into short-term production anyway. You're not going to be able to think about long-term value here. So looking at what we have at quarterback, it's a 14-team league, so I understand the waiver wire options are going to be a little bit worse. I still don't love the idea of us rostering 3 quarterbacks, though. We have Fields, Michael Penix, as well as Sam Darnold. If there was a world in which you could you could flip Sam Darnold with a waiver wire player that we thought had a lot of upside, I would. But again, much, much easier said than done. Now, looking at what we have at running back, we have Josh Jacobs, Jordan Mason, Tony Pollard, Zach Charbonnet. So running back is maybe the weakest skill position that we have, because wide receiver, it's a league in which you only start 2 receivers in a flex. And we have St. Brown, Lamb, and Jamar Chase. Then tight end, we have Dallas Goedert. And we're not going to be super concerned about tight end when it comes to a 14-team league. Looking at the waiver wire options, your league mates know what they're doing. There aren't any super compelling pickups. I'm not going to sit here and tell you oh, you just absolutely have to drop Sam Darnold. Brian Robinson is too good of a name to leave out there on the waiver wire. Ray Davis is too good of a name to leave out there on waivers. So realistically speaking, I'm fine with you leaving that construction as is. But one thing that you are going to have to do is you have to sell CeeDee Lamb on this team. It sucks to say it. Obviously, CeeDee Lamb, super exciting name, ton of long-term upside. But if we are looking at this here, we can find some of these teams at the very top of points scored and try to give them the long-term upside of Lamb, who's probably going to be back next week. But if we fall to 1-6, rest in peace. You have to start winning games right now. So it doesn't matter if CeeDee Lamb comes back 2 weeks from now and is the wide receiver 1 in fantasy the rest of the way. You still may be better off at selling him for 90% of his value today. On a 1-4 team, that is. Now, if we were looking at what we have with this team at the top, if you could get an upgrade at running back and a playable wide receiver for the flex, if you could go from CeeDee Lamb to Judkins and Stephon Diggs here in a 14-teamer, that may be interesting. I'll say in my opinion, you're definitely losing out value-wise there. If instead you wanted to go from Lamb to go Lamb and Dallas Goedert to Judkins and Tyler Warren, it'd definitely be a hell of a lot better for us if we could. With this team, if you could trade Lamb and get Igbuka and a Rico Dowdle back, or Igbuka and Michael Carter back, and get the 2 startable pieces, I think that would be very exciting. This team, if you could sell them Lamb for Debo and Etienne, I would love it. In reality, that team probably can't afford it. This team, if we could sell them Lamb straight up for Jackson Smith and Jigba. This team, if we could sell them Lamb and get back like Nico Collins and then a depth piece, like if you can go maybe Lamb, or maybe you sell Lamb and get back Kyron and Marvin Harrison, I think that could be appealing as well. This team has Bucky injured, so that's not going to be in play for us. Obviously, we have to make the trade for a player that's going to produce now. If you wanted to pivot from Lamb and like Jordan Mason to get Garrett Wilson and Derrick Henry, I think that you could look to do that move as well. But frankly, that's the pivot point that you have to make on this team. In my opinion, you need to go through and you actually need to be looking to sell CeeDee Lamb to just get some production right now, considering the context of our 1-4 roster. But I really appreciate you and really hope I was able to help you out in some way with this. And again, thank you so much for being a member of the flock, my guy. And why did I skip over Gadgets team? Okay, let's go back to Gadgets. Says, wanted to trust my team will end up coming together. Clearly it hasn't. Struggling to find trades and get back into the season. I have a hard upcoming schedule. 3 out of the next 4 teams are ranked above me. Is there some upgrade angle that I'm not seeing, or do I just trust my players to hit their floor? So this is a 12-team start 8 format, so the skill positional depth will matter here. This is AWP Dragon Lore. We are 2-3. We've scored 559 points, so or 599, but regardless, we're second to last in points scored, so it's understandable that we are 2-3. Now, of course, the league analyzer says that we're better than our record indicates, but still. Now, looking at what we have at quarterback, we have Mahomes and Herbert. Herbert's like an interesting range of QB where he's too good to cut, but at the same time, he is not good enough to sell for anything, so you're just kind of stuck rostering both of these players. And you're not going to be looking to do much with them. Looking over at running back, we have 2 anchors with Gibbs and Achane. You absolutely love to see it. They both give you an incredibly high weekly floor as well as weekly ceiling. It's a league where the wide receiver depth matters because you can start 4 of these guys weekly. We have Devontae Adams. We have Ladd McConkey. We have Jacoby Myers. We have Jordan Addison. And then obviously, I guess like Khalil Shakir to start in this week whenever you have like no Jordan Addison on bye. And then tight end, we have Juwan Johnson and Mark Andrews. So realistically, looking at your team here, I'm going to be honest with you, it's not great. But I don't exactly know how I could tell you to like, oh yeah, let's just transition the value from this way to this way. Like, you don't have much expendable value that you don't exactly need on your roster here. Like, it's not like you have an extra tight end where we're rostering Tucker Kraft and Jake Ferg, where it's easy like, oh yeah, I guess our wide receiver position could use an upgrade. Let's go through and let's sell Jake Ferg to go get this. Like, it's a league where wide receiver depth matters. We have just enough wide receiver depth to get by. Tight end's weak. We don't have a lot of running back depth. I'll let you know, I'm not bothering with Isaiah Bond. I don't see the upside for this dude. And I don't even know why this isn't loading for him. But regardless, with Isaiah Bond, you just saw them pivot with Cedric Tillman injured to just using more 2 tight end sets. Isaiah Bond wasn't a super compelling prospect. The Browns offense is garbage. So like for me, I would build out a running back depth a little bit more by dropping Isaiah Bond and maybe picking up Kenneth Gainwell, picking up Joe Mixon. But realistically speaking, your team's fine. It's not great. Like Ladd McConkey being a massive disappointment clearly hurts. I just think realistically, we're going to have like somebody hitting off the bench. Like if this team gets a Kyron injury, then all of a sudden Blake Corum turns out to be a viable name. Then of course we are very excited. And this team can be something we get excited about rest of season. But for right now, I don't see where the expendable value comes, where it's like easy for you to go through and make this specific trade. But I think that's all I got for you. I wish I had more for you, my friend. I think your team is well constructed, so trades aren't really the best thing. You just have to hit on, like, just one of your guys has to start producing. You just have to start seeing Ladd McConkey come through, or you need to find a way to hit on one of these guys on the bench. But I really appreciate you, and I went ahead and sent you over some free questions. So if there's anything else that I can follow up with, don't hesitate to reach out to me and let me know. But yeah, really appreciate you. Hope I was able to help you out in some way with this. But it looks like we just hit our next like goal. So we're going to go ahead and we will send out some more free questions. And actually with that, we're going to pivot over and start answering the free questions right now. So let's move this over. And again, if y'all wanted to potentially win free questions, all you got to do is go down, drop a like on this live stream, and drop your flockfantasy.com username in the chat. That way, if you win, I know who to send them to. And then also, if you wanted to get guaranteed free questions for these live streams, you can see we're about to spend the next 3 hours answering just 1,000 free questions. The way the majority of people get these is by taking advantage of the offer that we have on Underdog Fantasy, where if you go over to Underdog Fantasy and use promo code FLOCK, you're going to get $100 added into your account after you play your first 5. And on top of that, you'll get a free pick. If you sign up before tonight's game, it'll be a free Jalen Hurts gimme pick, higher, lower, half a total yard against the Giants. And you'll get free questions that you can ask in these live streams. And again, I'm streaming every single day answering fantasy football questions until Christmas. But let's go ahead and let's send this free question out to May for Prez. And you can find that link to Underdog Fantasy in the description. You can find it in the live chats, and Underdog Fantasy is available in almost every single state. So I just sent that out to you, May for Prez. Appreciate you hanging out with us in this stream. But let's go ahead and let's start answering these. This is Ty Andrade trading Gibbs for Brees in London. This is a 12-team start 8 format. We have Pearsall injured, or wide receiver depth is questionable. I'll say in general, Jahmyr Gibbs is one of those untouchable assets that I really never want to trade. However, your league depth matters. Your league, we don't really have the depth. So I would make this move. I would probably say keep the Jahmyr Gibbs side for most people with most teams in most leagues, but yours specifically makes a lot of sense. And I actually got to log out and log back in to keep this show rolling. I apologize for that, ladies and gentlemen, but let's get this back. Okay. Let's refresh this. And yeah, again, most teams you'd want Gibbs, but yours specifically, you go Brees in London. Now, Bezo trading Brian Thomas and Devontae Adams for James Cook. So here it's a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex league. We have Ladd, Tat, Igbuka. So realistically, we don't need the wide receiver depth. So 100% I'd make this trade. Go get James Cook. Now, Cart's trading Kyron Igbuka, Pearsall for Puka Nacua. Puka Nacua, completely different tier of asset. Leftover running back, we'd have Jacobs and then like Trevion Henderson. So I will say 9 times out of 10, I am always going to be going with the Puka Nacua side. However, this is one of those rare instances where I don't think you can feel comfortable starting Trevion Henderson just yet. So realistically speaking, your league depth matters. We don't have a ton of it, especially not at the running back position. So I would go ahead. I would hold on to the Kyron side. Now, Zeker Trekker, here, you're probably going to have to start Darnold over Lamar. Lamar's not playing. We're going to go Bijan and then Michael Carter at running back. Wide receiver, you play Sutton and Ladd. And then here at tight end, we're going to go Jake Ferg. And then for the flex, you're probably going to go Kendrick Bourne, as it looks like Ricky Pearsall's not going to play. Now, Little Fisher Price, I'm going to be going with Daniel Jones over Bo Nix. And then tight end, you clearly go Jake Ferg over Mason Taylor. And then who's your best name down here on the bench? Jacoby Myers? I think you can leave this as is. Myers would be your best play if you did end up getting like Chuba Hubbard playing where you can't rely on Dowdle, but I expect you're just going to leave that as is. Now, moving over to our next one. This is the real AG. For the flex, I'm expecting that Chuba Hubbard's not going to play, so I think that you're going to play Rico Dowdle. Yeah, you go Dowdle. Now, Pasta Bro, On the bench at the moment, yeah, Bowers probably isn't going to play. So our best name would be Keenan Allen, and we're not playing Keenan Allen over any of these options. So I think you leave this as is. I would probably play. I understand going with Young, just given the matchup you have against Dallas. I would just say in general, there's no way that's our best streaming option. That'd be brutal. Now, Case Solidner trading Chase Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Jake Ferguson. St. Brown to JSN, slight down tier. Chase Brown and Ferg versus Igbuka. Give me Igbuka. Do you have another tight end here? No, we don't. Running back left over, you'd be starting Pollard. The values on the JSN and Igbuka side, I don't necessarily know if I can tell you that we love this specific trade, though. Like, realistically, with your team, you don't have a backup tight end. Not only do you not have a backup tight end, but on top of this, you are in a pretty questionable spot at running back. But the value is there to go JSN and Igbuka. Now, FJH trading JCM for Amari Hampton. If you have a winning record, I'd rather have Hampton. I have Hampton RB21 and JCM RB28. Obviously, if you're 0-5, then you have no business in trading for Amari Hampton. Now, Derp with our next one. Quarterback, I'm going to be going Michael Penix over Dylan Gabriel. Tight end, give me Kyle Pitts over Fannin. And then we're going to go Rico Dowdle. Actually, no, you have Pickens and Dowdle. Take out Ladd McConkey and put Rico Dowdle over him. And then obviously Pickens looking like a must-start play. With no CeeDee Lamb and a good matchup. Now, Eusebio, Drake May versus Baker Mayfield. So realistically speaking, I was horribly wrong with our ranking of Baker, where I was concerned about him going to Seattle this past week, which clearly he had no problem with whatsoever. Pulling up my rankings this week, I have Baker at 7 going up against San Francisco. I have Drake May at 8 going up against New Orleans. So they are back-to-back, but it's going to be up to you. But I have Baker one spot higher. Then looking at running back, Bijan, obviously an auto start. I would, we have Hunter Henry at tight ends. Yeah, you're going to take out Cam Scat probably for Breece Hall. And then you're going to play JSN and Devontae Adams in the 2 flexes. So I think with your team, you bench Cam Scattaboo with Tyrone Tracy back. Now, B. Bogelli says, neighbors went down. I'm 4-1 and I was offered this. So London to JSN upgrade, Daniels to Bo Nix clear downgrade. Realistically speaking, it doesn't matter whatsoever if you lost Malik Neighbors. You're just trading a quarterback and a wide receiver for a quarterback and a wide receiver. It's just going to come down to what do you expect the point per game gap to be between Daniels and Bo Nix? And does the jump from London to JSN outweigh that point per game loss you're going to get at quarterback? So for me, I think that this is a personal preference type move, but I'm not going to fault you one way or another for it. Now, Dubs with our next one. Here, best option on the bench is probably going to be Keenan Allen. However, you don't need to play Keenan over Dowdle, Pittman. If Hubbard plays, you pivot from Dowdle to Keenan, but I'm expecting Hubbard to miss. And God, I'm rooting against Rico Dowdle this week. I have to play against him this week, and I am terrified. Okay. Now, Jace Barbie with our next question. Trading away Jefferson for Igbuka and JCM. How down bad are we at running back? Pretty down bad. So I'm okay if you wanted to do this. I'm going to be honest with you. If it was my team and how I value these players, I would rather have Justin Jefferson given the large sample that we have. And I'm not worried about Godwin. I'm not worried about Evans coming back in the long term in Minnesota. So if it was my team, I would say Justin Jefferson, but this is a completely fine trade given how down bad you are at running back. So I'll mark both sides as a winner. Now, GT with our next one. Running back, we are sitting with Josh Jacobs as the auto start. Afterwards, I'm going to be going with Rachaad White, assuming you have no Bucky. We have no Jefferson this week, so you're playing Igbuka and Keenan Allen because you're going to have no Rice and no Pearsall. Tight end, you're starting Trey McBride. And then for that final flex, it's going to be down between Dobbins and Kenneth Walker. Looking at my running back rankings this week, I put Dobbins at 20 going up against the Jets. You do have the Broncos heavily favored. And yeah, I have them ahead of the Seattle backs as they are just straight up splitting that backfield 50-50. Now, Frag D, quarterback, give me Fields over Caleb. Running back, I'm assuming Bucky misses. So between Isaiah Davis, Kyle Monangai, and Rashad Smith, I'm going to go Vidal. This is going to be like the one person all week I tell to start Vidal, but dear God, your team's in trouble. In the flexes, you're playing Aoman. I'm assuming CeeDee Lamb doesn't play. Who the hell are you playing outside of this? If Jalen Coker plays, you play Coker. I don't think Coker's going to play, no. I mean, though, right? There's no world in which I'm playing Jack Besh. What has Jack Besh done this season? He's currently averaging 2.2 points per game. How many snaps did Isaiah Davis play this past week? He's at least averaging 2.88 points per game. He played 41% of the snaps for the Jets. So, yeah. Thomas says Coger is full. Yeah, I know Coger is back at practice fully, but is he playing in the game? If Coger is playing in the game, you play Jalen Coker here. If not, your backup play is probably Isaiah Davis. Gross that sounds. Now, Smoke Kuvad trading Jinty and Hassan Haskins for Nico and Sharps. This is a personal preference type deal for me. Leftover running back, you have Bijan and Jacobs already through their buys. Wide receiver, you're maybe not the strongest at the moment. So I'm fine with you making this deal. I don't think it's like a no-brainer, but you can go for it. Now, B. Bogelli trading Daniels in London. We already, is this the same trade? Yeah, this is the same trade that you asked earlier. So let me say something just real quick for anybody watching this. I will never miss your question if it was submitted on flogfantasy.com. I go in order of the way that they were received when it comes to the start sit, when it comes to the trade questions. Roster reviews will kind of bounce around. If it's a Dynasty team review, maybe we'll save it for a Dynasty live stream. But yeah, never think like, oh crap, Mason missed my question. I need to ask it again. I'm always going to see it. And I'm always going to answer it. And you'll always get the message through the site with the link for you to see your answer. So you never have to worry about missing it. Okay. Now let's move this over to our next one. This is Ron Jovi says, need 2 running backs to start. Half PPR, Walker, Carter, Henderson, and Brown. Okay. Half PBR format. So Chase Brown still in a horrendous matchup here. Going up against the Green Bay Packers. Obviously, Flacco makes him maybe a little bit more exciting. Full PBR format, I probably prefer Chase Brown over Kenneth Walker, but half PPR league where the receiving doesn't matter as much and the Bengals project to be the worst offense in the league by far this week. In that instance, I probably go ahead and I probably play Kenneth Walker and Michael Carter. Now, Jim trading Worthy for ETN. I have ETN as the easy winner. Like, realistically speaking, Worthy, you have to worry about Rashee Rice coming back in while at the same time you have the injuries. Now, Cal Squeeze, here at running back, give me Chase Brown over Miller and Algier. And then tight end, we're going to go Jawan Johnson over Taysom Hill. Now, Joe Leongo trading Jacobs, Devonta Smith, George Pickens for CMC and Jacoby Myers. Yeah, this is going to be CMC easily. And I'm saying this is somebody who has Josh Jacobs on their own team. But again, I want to reiterate that McCaffrey is in a completely different tier. If you ever get the opportunity to trade for McCaffrey, you have to go for it. Okay. Now, Nico's in London trading Brees to Allen as an upgrade. Rachaad White to Michael Carter is an upgrade. Diggs to Rice is an upgrade. You have to pay Drake May to get it done. I don't care what your team looks like. This is the Josh Allen and Rashee Rice side. It's not close. Multiple scoregasms trading Mason Taylor for AJ Barner and Jawan Jennings. Is this a dynasty team? Yeah, this looks dynasty. If this is a dynasty format, I'd rather have Mason Taylor. If it's a redraft format, you go Jawan Jennings. AJ K says, hey, Mason, team's looking to get hot and need some help. Appreciate all you do. Appreciate you, my friend. Quarterback, I think you go Dak Prescott. Here, I definitely prefer Dak in a spot in which you have Lamar Jackson, but you still have crazy projections here for the Dallas Cowboys offense, though. Then running back, we're going to be going with Jonathan Taylor as well as Quinshon Judkins. Tight end, you have Hunter Henry over Dallas Goedert. And then for the flex, we are going to go ahead. We're going to take Travis Etienne. Okay. Now let's refresh this. Get some more questions in. This is going to be from Richard, but before we get into this, I see that we did hit 500 likes on the stream, so let's go ahead and let's send out some free questions. So again, if you want to qualify to win those free questions, stupid simple. All you got to do is drop a like on the live stream and then drop your flockfantasy.com username in the chat. That way, if you win, I know who to send it to. And obviously, if you wanted to get guaranteed free questions, you can always do so by taking advantage of the offer that we have on Underdog Fantasy, where if you go over to Underdog Fantasy and use promo code FLOCK, you are going to be getting $100 added to your account after you play your first 5. And on top of that, you'll actually get a free Jalen Hurts gimme pick, higher, lower, half a total yard for tonight's game. And you'll get guaranteed questions that you can ask on the live streams. I have been working with Underdog for 5 years, and this offer they're doing here is better than anything they've ever done. It's not even remotely close. So you can find that link in the description as well as the live chat. Underdog Fantasy is available in almost every single state. But let's see, we got low carb. Let me see if I can find you, my friend, and send you out those free questions. Again, really appreciate you hanging out with us here. Okay, low carb. Just found you and just sent you over a free start set question. Appreciate you hanging out with us again, my guy. Now, this from Richard, trading Nico and Kyle Pitts for Rice and Diggs. We have Tucker Kraft at tight end, so Kyle Pitts is almost a zero. It's a league where depth matters somewhat. You can start up to 4 wide receivers weekly. Yeah, I think you can go get Rice there. Tommy D trading Algier, Hunter Henry, and Keon Coleman for Jordan Addison. Addison is startable in this format with the depth that's required. Okay. Looking at what we have at wide receiver before this, we have Olave, JSN. I think you can do this if you want to. I would say in general, what I'd probably want here is I'd probably want to wait a week just in case like you do end up getting a massive breakout from one of these receivers like Travis Hunter or Keon Coleman. And like obviously nothing good's going to happen to Jordan Addison during the bye week. Now Cody Sorensen trading Tet for Devonta Smith and JCM. Right now at running back, we have Barkley. We lost Hampton, so we have Barkley and David Montgomery. So I'll say value-wise, I would rather have the Tet side of this. However, I understand if you wanted to make this move. My thing is 10-team format, waiver wire options may be decent for you to just backfill that way. Now, Ballsy Poopy says, yo, Mason, congrats on the engagement. Thank you, my friend. Lost Neighbors been trying a lot to stay relevant. Traded Kamara and Tet for HN last week. Should we trade Bowers or Waller? So, wide receiver at the moment. Yeah, I mean, you have to make a deal like this. It sucks. But I actually like this a lot. I would rather just sell like Waller straight up for Ladd McConkey, but with the Terry injury, the Neighbors injury, and now the Bowers injury, you are having a very hard time filling out a starting lineup here. So if you could pivot over and get Ladd McConkey, who obviously doesn't look to be the guy that he was at the end of last season, He's definitely not getting better than he was last year. But still, he is at least startable in this format with your team and is going to help us stay relevant right now. So I think, honestly, yeah, you probably go ahead and make that move. Now, Bitter Hornet says, was offered Chase Brown for Dowdle. Want to counter with Dowdle, Haskins, Pearsall for Chase Brown and Waddle. What do you think? Thanks for all the help. Thank you for everything, my friend. Let me make sure that I'm going to make sure that Balls Eat Poopy also has another free question to follow up with. But let me make sure you do too, my guy. Chase Brown for Dowdle. Okay, so we actually kind of need the running back depth both in the short and long term. So I would make either deal. I would trade Rico Dowdle for Chase Brown unless, again, if there's a world in which you end up getting like Chuba Hubbard out for an extended period of time. Where Chuba Hubbard's missing the next month, then you'd rather have Rico Dowdle. But my expectations are kind of Hubbard comes back week 7. That's going to end up being a running back by committee. So I would make this trade for sure. I'd prefer doing this deal, the one that you laid out. But I do either. Balls Eat Poopy out again. Quarterback, give me Love over Stafford. The Packers project to be the highest scoring offense in the league this week. You're going to have to hope that Godwin plays. Godwin in practice. I'm assuming that Bowers isn't going to play, so you're going to play Darren Waller at tight ends. I'm assuming you have no Terry. I'm assuming you have no Watson. I'm assuming you have no Bowers. In that instance, you got to play Trevion Henderson here in the flex. But yeah, your team's ravaged with injury. So again, I think trading for Lad's going to help a lot. Now, Colorful Tab trading Rome and Pitts for Rice and Bowers. Rome to Rice, lateral move. Pitts to Bowers, clear upgrade for me. So I would go ahead and I'd make this move. Colorful Tab right now for our starting lineup. And maybe you try to wait a week because realistically, I mean, you make that deal and when we have CeeDee Lamb injured, it's going to be very tough for us to fill out a lineup. Like our best option on the bench right now to put in a flex spot's freaking TJ Hawkinson. So maybe you just wait a little bit with that. And you're also saying, should we trade Derrick Henry and Brian Thomas for Bijan Robinson? So here's the thing. This is a 14-team start 8 format, so the depth's going to be very hard to come by. I would say in a regular league, you very easily go ahead and make this move. Leftover receiver will have Rome and then Lamb in the long term. Probably prefer either trade you're winning, but again, it's just a tough spot with the CeeDee Lamb injury. Like if you were selling depth, I would prefer, if possible, if we wait until it's after we get CeeDee Lamb back in. Okay. Now, let's move over. Bitter Hornet, always out here, says, want to bundle Coker and Ayomanor to up tier for Godwin or Shakir. J Mo Hunter, these are all bust types. Like you have Godwin. Okay, so in general, like Coker and Ayomanor are fringe roster spot guys. You go to the waiver wire in your league, you're going to be able to find names like Kendrick Bourne that I can make an argument I'd rather have Kendrick Bourne over Jalen Coker. So when we're looking at players like Jalen Coker, where there's arguably just as good of options on waivers, you could say that it just simply doesn't really, like, these players have no value. They're just worth a roster spot. So if you're able to just start parlaying these guys that you just picked up off the waiver wire and nothing really changed, and 2-for-1 deals to just solid bench assets that you think have a higher ceiling, and then you can just go ahead and also pick up somebody like Kendrick Bourne off waivers, then yeah, I would go ahead. I would do it. I think you just pick up Matthew Golden here. Now, dollars with our next one, trading Diggs, Tyler Warren for Rice and Laporta. For me, I think that this is a personal preference type move, up to you. Like, Rice is the best player in it, but I'd way rather have Tyler Warren over Laporta at this point. So It's just a wide receiver, tight end swap, wide receiver, tight end swap. Comes down to what you're thinking with these exact players. I have this as a fair deal, but I wouldn't fault you one way or another for it. Now, Apes trading A.J. Brown for Jalen Waddle. Again, personal preference type trade. I have A.J. Brown ranked wide receiver 21. Jalen Waddle ranked wide receiver 19. So I wouldn't fault you either way. Now, Mazzay's here, quarterback. Give me Fields over May. Running back, Derrick Henry, even with no Lamar. It's going to be ugly, but you got to play him. We're going to go Tet Adams at wide receiver, Hunter Henry at tight end, and then we'll go Xavier Worthy at the flex. If Xavier Worthy does not play, which he didn't practice today, you'd pivot over to Bill Krosky-Merritt. Okay. Now, Delta, here for this trade, we're going to send Michael Carter, Alvin Kamara, DJ Moore, Chris Godwin for Genty and Jalen Warren. It's a league in which depth matters. Afterwards, you'd have Scat, Genty, Bucky, Benson at running back. So you're completely fine at RB. And wide receiver, we'd have Chase, Brian Thomas, Judy Golden. So wide receiver depth would be a little bit questionable, but if you think you can backfill with names off the waiver wire, I do think that Ashton Genty's in a different tier than anybody else here. So I'd be A-okay with us going and getting Genty. Bitter Hornet out again says, looking to up tier with Higgins and Pearsall. What's a realistic... the A.J. Brown move here says it's a slight loss for us. Let me look at the teams in your league, my guy. So we're trying to send Ricky Pearsall and T. Higgins. Let's go through. And I will say we have by far and away the best team in this league. We have Puka and CMC on the same squad. And we have Tyler Warren as well. This is a loaded team. I'd make that move for Pickens in a heartbeat. I'd make that move for Devontae Adams. I'd make that move for Garrett Wilson. I'd make that move for, obviously, CeeDee Lamb. I'd make that move for Rome Odunze. I'd make that move for Nico Collins. I'd make it for Tedero McMillan. I'd make it for Rashee Rice. I'd make it for London. I'd make it for Igbuka. There's no way you get St. Brown, and there's no way. We're not going to make it for Devonta Smith. So I think you're looking at the wide receiver range, in my opinion, of like anything as high of wide receiver 8 is technically possible. But I'd be willing to go down to like wide receiver 15. But let me just make sure you have all the questions you need, my guy. Okay. Just sent those all over to you. Now, Alg trading Judkins. And Quentin Johnston for CeeDee Lamb. So for me, 10-team league, running back, we have Breece, White, Bijan, Chase Brown. You have plenty of running back depth. As long as you're not sitting here with a losing record, like you're not 1-4, then yeah, I think we'd go ahead and we would take the CeeDee Lamb side of this. Now, GH Pack, running back, give me Derrick Henry over Corey Krosky-Merritt this week. And then for the flex, JCM, I'm treating similar to how we treated Woody Marks last week, where he's definitely an upside shot, don't get me wrong. But I don't necessarily think you like guaranteed any type of volume. So I don't want to tell anybody like, oh yeah, you got to play Corey Krosky-Merritt. I don't think he's a lock. I have Diggs 27, Brian Thomas 26, and Metcalf at 20 this week in my rankings. So I'd probably go DK Metcalf here in a full PPR. Now, South Florida Dog says, hey, Mason, would you start Rico over White in week 6? Realistically, I think both are great plays. I'm really rooting against Rico Dowdle this week, but I think you have to go with Dowdle. He's probably going to crush me in my matchup. I'm playing against him, but the dude's coming off a game where he had 200 rushing yards. Now, let's move this over to our next one. This is Joe Boy J. It's trading Barkley, Higgins, Mason Taylor for Sharp, Henry, Walker, and Ladd. So Higgins to Ladd upgrade, Barkley to Henry downgrade. We're getting like Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet for our troubles. It's a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex. Right now you're starting Barkley and Michael Carter. And so you have okay depth. Like, I understand what you're doing here. I would just try to not down tier so much. I would try to get a better player back than like Derrick Henry. But I'm okay if you wanted to make that move. Now, I'm about to pee myself. I'll be back in literally 20 seconds. Okay, let's go ahead and let's move this over to Delta. Here, our best option on the bench, I would say, is DJ Moore. Realistically, I would probably play DJ Moore here over, like, I think you had Hassan Haskins in this spot, or maybe you had Matthew Golden. Like, when it comes to players like that where we just haven't seen them be productive before, I would rather go with the guy that we have the larger sample from, which is going to be DJ. But it looks like we did hit 600 likes on the stream, so let's go ahead and let's send out some free questions in the chat. Again, if you want to qualify to win a free question, stupid simple. All you got to do is drop a like on the live stream and then drop your flockfantasy.com username in the chat in case you end up winning something. I need to know who to send it to. And if you wanted to get guaranteed free questions on the stream, you can always do so by taking advantage of the offer on Underdog Fantasy. Or if you go over to Underdog Fantasy and use promo code FLOCK, you will get $100 added to your account after you play your first 5. And on top of that, you'll get a free Jalen Hurts gimme pick, higher, lower, half a total yard for tonight's game as well. Underdog Fantasy is available in almost every single state. This is by far and away the best offer that they have done in the 5 years I've been working with them. And you can find that, and you'll get free questions in the chat. You can find it in the description, like I said. But let's see if we can send this over to Aftermath. Aftermath. Just found you and just sent you over a free start set question. Appreciate you hanging out with us in this stream. Now, Kaysen here is trading Lamb for James Cook and Terry McLaurin. I would rather have James Cook straight up over CeeDee Lamb at this point. So I'd make this move. Like, once CeeDee Lamb is back and healthy, then obviously you can make an argument that you'd rather have Lamb, but we don't know when that's going to be at this point. Shouldn't be that much longer, but the thing is, like, missing 1 week at this point of the season is a bigger deal than missing 1 week coming into the year, because there aren't that many games left. So if there aren't that many games left, like, every game you miss is a higher percentage of the rest of the season. Now, go Utes Tommy. Here, I think you got to play Rico Dowdle in one flex spot. And then with all else being equal, I'll play Devonta Smith in the other. Like, again, Ja'Cory Cross-Merritt, I think he could absolutely crush. Great matchup against the Chicago Bears. He looked phenomenal this past week. But I'm treating him like Woody Marks. Upside shot, but not particularly guaranteed to be a hammer. Now, go Utes Tommy, again, wide receiver. We're going to go with Chris Olave and Devonta Smith inside the starting lineup. Tight ends, we have no Bowers and we have no Kittle, so you're going to have to go ahead. You're going to have to drop, like, somebody here. Your drop will probably be Kendrick Bourne to just play a tight ends this week. And then wide receiver, I mean, Kendrick Bourne's probably who I don't want to play, but if you have to drop him to pick up a tight end to play, I think you hope Jawan Jennings is an option, but we don't. Jennings practiced today. Chris Godwin didn't. I don't know who's playing out of those. Okay. Now, KT Browning trading CMC for Jacobs and Judkins. This is going to be the CMC side. I understand you need a running back too, but if you're selling McCaffrey, you need to be charging a much higher price tag than that. And right now, I mean, you have the back end waiver wire tight ends that you can fill in with. Now, Lil Jabari trading Taylor for Genty, Jamar Chase, and Jaden Daniels. It's a 12-team start aid format, so the depth does matter here a bit. The wide receiver, we are starting Devonta Smith and Jamison Williams this week. Quarterback, we just lost Kyler. So because the depth matters in this league, I think this is a fair price point. You sending Jonathan Taylor to get Jamar Chase, Ashton Genty, and Jaden Daniels, especially with the lack of wide receiver production we have combined with the Kyler Murray injury. Okay. But let's refresh this so we can keep this show moving. Now, this is Bennett Glass trading London Lamb for Judkins, Nico, and Rice. London or Rice slide down tier. Lamb to Nico slide down tier. You're picking up Judkins to do it. Right now at running back, you're starting Kyron, and we lost Bucky Irving. Lamb and Rice, you're going to get the same amount of games played from rest of season, essentially. You're going to get an extra game with Drake London, though, in comparison to Nico Collins, since London's already through the bye. I think it's going to be a fair deal, and this is up to you. Like, if you had a losing record, I completely understand going with the Judkins side. Now, BGL, here, our best option from the bench to get in the lineup would probably be Rico Dowdle. So I would leave this as is, outside of if you were to have confirmation that Chuba Hubbard's going to miss. Rico Dowdle being in such a strong matchup, I'd probably put Dowdle in my lineup over Rashad White. Now, Jazila says that last trade was a veto. Should we try for anyone? I was thinking JT for a 2-for-1 swap. Top wide receiver and running back. Wide receiver, you have Pickens, Worthy, Myers, Jefferson. No, do not do that. You keep Jonathan Taylor here. You have plenty of wide receiver depth, my guy. You're playing in a 10-team, 2 wide receiver, 1 flex league. Why the hell do we need to be trading our best player to go and pick up another wide receiver depth, please? You have plenty of wide receivers that you can play. So I would very happily sit with this team as is. And I would just hold on to Jonathan Taylor here. Okay. Now, Jalupik trading Rice for Rome Odunze. You're going to get 2 extra games from Rome in comparison to Rice for that reason. I have Rome wide receiver 9 versus Rice wide receiver 11, but realistically, this is a personal preference type move. They're 2 spots apart in my rankings. So again, I think it is up to you, really. Now, Bob Labla, running back. Assuming Hubbard doesn't play, Rico Dowdle is your number 1 guy. And then in the flex, you're going to go with Derrick Henry. And then I don't think you need to play scat here tonight in a tough matchup with Tracy back. I think you can go with Xavier Worthy. And let me ask y'all real quick, because I have my own. Starting lineup question that I need to figure out. And it involves Cam Scatterby. I was planning on going scat, but with Tracy playing and this being a tough matchup, I'm getting a little bit scared off of it, to the extent that let me see. I am considering benching Cam Scatterby. Who would y'all play? Cam Scattaboo, Tony Pollard, or T. Higgins. I still have Scattaboo in the starting lineup, but do y'all think I should switch this out? Right now, my starting lineup is Josh Allen, Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs, Travis Etienne, Cam Scattaboo, DK Metcalf, Stephon Diggs, Dallas Goedert. We got people saying Scat, Jalen Carter's inactive, which obviously makes it better. We got Higgins, Scat, Higgins, Higgins, Scat. Higgins, Scat, Higgins. So it looks like y'all are split 50-50. Here's my thing with the Higgins play. Last I checked, he was higher or lower with 37.5 receiving yards on Underdog this week. Actually, that has moving up. He's up to higher or lower 41.5 receiving yards. But still. Cam Scat is higher, lower, 68.5 total yards. Yeah, I'm going to go Cam Scat. I'm sorry. That is my main decision that I have this week. And last week, I made the wrong decision. Last week, I decided to play Tony Pollard instead of... decided to play Jerry Jeudy instead of Tony Pollard. And I'd have been much better off just keeping Pollard in the lineup. Now, TFAC Rob, always happy to see you. 2 and 3, Hampton, IR, Mason on the bye. Did I overpay or do it? No, I think if you want to go and get Trevion Henderson here, you can. I'll say 2 and 3 roster. Obviously, we're a little bit more focused in on production in the short term. But this is a very reasonable price tag to pay to go ahead and get Trevion Henderson. Okay, now Ryan Jink trading Rome and Mason for Marks, Henry, and Ladd. Rome's the best player in this. Woody Marks doesn't really look usable at the moment. How bad do you need the running back? We have Barkley, Dowdle, Michael Carter, so it's not like you're desperate for running back production. I would probably keep Rome Odunze here. Rome through the bye week as well. Looks to be in a good spot. Okay. Now, Love Thy Neighbors trading Jacobs, Tet, and a future first for Rice, Rome, and Sharbs. Dynasty, Tet versus Rome, comparable for me. Jacobs versus Rice, give me Rice. Obviously, give me the first over Charbonnet. I think it's a very fair trade. I think that this is a personal preference type deal. I think a lot of it comes down to what you view Tet as in terms of long-term dynasty value. At least. That would be my thought process here. Like Tet is, because we kind of know who Rome is at this point. We kind of know who Rice is at this point. Now, J Tomp. Trading London Charbonnet, Michael Penix for Jahmyr Gibbs. It's a Superflex Dynasty League. Yeah, it's going to be Drake London and Michael Penix for me here. Superflex Dynasty League is London, Michael Penix side. I don't think it's close. Yonder says 3 and 2 right now. Not sure if I'm depleting my running back room, but we get Lamb. I mean, hell yeah. The Lamb's the winning side here value-wise easily. And afterwards at running back, we'd have Achane, Henry. Like, you're going to have to work the waiver wire like a madman at running back. Or we're going to have to get a Trevion Henderson breakout. But I think in terms of the value on this deal, if you're 3 and 2, I would go and get CeeDee Lamb. 1 and 4 team, obviously very different, but a team that's 3 and 2, I think you can run. I mean, you can go for it. Okay. Now, our next one is going to be from Toro. Here we need a wide receiver. Oh, playing lad, and we didn't really fill this out correctly. I'm assuming that this is more so just a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex format. So we need to figure out who we bench between Ladd, Harrison, Bourne, and Walker. If both Pearsall and Jennings miss, I'm going to bench Marv. If either Pearsall or Jennings plays, which it looks like Pearsall's not going to, it'd be Jennings. Then at that point, I think you bench Bourne. Okay. Now, Higgy trading Stafford, Metcalf, and Igbuka for Josh Allen. It's a super flex format. Leftover receiver will have Puka, JSN, Ladd, and Olave. So I would not do this in a 1 quarterback league, but in a super flex league, yes, I think we can go out there and we can afford to make this deal for Mr. Josh Allen. Now, our next question is from Saucy, trading Carter, Sutton, Ferg for Bucky and Wilson. Upgrade at wide receiver, upgrade at running back. We pay Ferg to get it done. We have Mason Taylor tight end. I think you can do this. Obviously, I don't want to be trading for Bucky Irving if we have a losing record, but long term, I think it's the Bucky Irving side. Phil says, I'm 4-1. He wants Diggs badly. I'm thinking of selling high as he offered this. I like the deal. Wide receiver, it's a 2 receiver, 1 flex. We have JSN, Puka, Worthy, the big Q, so Diggs doesn't really matter for you. I mean, I have all 3 of these players on my team, but with your league settings, your team, I'd rank ETN ahead of him. Like, I mean, obviously you have an absolute loaded team. I know we've looked at your team a bunch, but realistically speaking, at least for me having Pollard on my team, I'm not viewing him as somebody I can trust going into the future now that Tyrone Tracy's viable. Now, Zong Sadfish. Here we have Tyquan Thornton in the flex right now. We have no Lamb, no Bowers, no Addison, no Benson. So it's Vidal or Tyquan. I would start Vidal. I mean, obviously you have no guarantee here whatsoever. But I don't know how excited I'm going to be about Tyquan Thornton. If the big play is not there, the floor is just non-existent with Worthy back. If Worthy misses, you can go Thornton. Now, Tater, here we have ETN versus Devontae Adams. Wide receiver right now, we have the Evans injury. A running back left over, you'd have Dowdle, Hampton, Bijan, Jacobs. So you have Bijan and Jacobs through the bye. I think this is a personal preference type deal. I mean, for me, I do have Devontae Adams ranked just a few spots higher. Like for my own team, I would sell Travis Etienne for Devontae Adams. But for my own team, I really need help at wide receiver, and my running backs are loaded. So I think that's just a personal preference type trade. Edwin trading Nico for Adams, Chase Brown, Rico Dowdle. You really have to be down bad at running back to do this. We have Jay. Yeah, you are down bad at running back. You have the Bucky and the Benson injuries. So, like, if you have a winning record, I'm going to take the long-term value of Nico Collins. However, if you had a losing record and this is the best it's going to get for us trading for a running back, like, we're not going to get a better price, then sure, you can go for it. But yeah, I don't know if that's really the best we could get for Nico, because Dowdle's maybe a 1-week option, right? W French trading Judkins for London. I have them 23 and 21 in my ranks. So I'm going to say the same thing here. This is a personal preference type deal. You lost Hampton, so I don't love the idea of trading away a running back. But in general, if y'all look at my rankings, then I have players 2 spots apart from each other. 9 times out of 10, I'm just going to say, you know what? It's up to you, right? Now, Bengals Super Bowl 2026. Quarterback, give me Caleb over Bo Nix, even though Bo Nix has a great matchup this week. And then a running back, Rashad White, is just an auto start with no Bucky Irving. Like, you can go ahead and look at the workload that you had this past week. He played 80% of the snaps. He had 18 opportunities. Like, you for sure play Bucky. You should for sure play Rashad White if Bucky's not in. Now, Flu's quarterback, we have no Lamar. We have no Kyler. I guess Spencer Rattler time. Play team total is like 21 points for New Orleans, though. It's actually better than I was expecting. Running back, I think you go Ginty. This is finally the week that you can get excited about him. Wide receiver, Pickens is an auto start based off matchup. Tight end, going to go Kelsey. I think there'll be passing volume there. And then we're going to go Travis Etienne as well as Garrett Wilson in the 2 flexes. But you have a really good team, really deep team. Now, Big Baby says, picking between Devonta Kamara or Michael Carter. I would play in on Alvin Kamara. Sounds like Kamara's going to play this week. Obviously, there is some uncertainty. We're going to have to monitor the reports over the next few days to just see if he is going to play or they're going to try to rest him and trade him. But if we were ranking these guys as if they are fine as is, I would go Kamara. But yeah, don't play Devonta Smith tonight because if you have Michael Carter as a backup pivot, like that is completely fine. Now moving over to our next one. This is S. trading JCM, Woody Marks, and Mike Evans for Amari Hampton and Brian Thomas. Okay. JCM to Hampton upgrade, Evans to Brian Thomas upgrade. We're paying Woody Marks to get it done. As long as you have a winning record, you can do this. Obviously, if we have a losing record, we have no business in buying Amari and Hampton. Now, Johnny Mouse says, league is 2 flex, 2 running backs, and 2 receivers. I need a solid RB1. Wide receiver, you have Nico, Myers, Ted. Realistically speaking, both these guys are just going into your flexes. So I would have Igbuka ahead of Ashton Ginty rest of season if you were guaranteed to have no Evans and no Godwin impact later in the year. However, with the context that Godwin and Evans are probably going to eventually come back here, I'm completely fine if you wanted to pivot over to Ashton Ginty. I will just say that based off what I have seen with trades happening in this live stream, the asking cost for Igbuka is a lot higher than it is Ginty. Amaya, Jefferson, Garrett Wilson, wide receiver 1, 2. JT is RB1. We need an RB2 right now. We have Jalen Warren. Yeah, I think it's a completely fair deal. Like I have Rice and Rome in a similar spot rest of season. I think Rice probably is a better point per game play, but you get 2 extra games out of Rome. But then if you get Judkins essentially for free, you go Judkins for sure. Now, Mitch Giggins trading Trevion Henderson, Jalen Coker, Jalen Waddle, Jamar Chase for Breece, Brian Thomas, Tet, and A.J. Brown. So Chase to Breece, lateral move up to you. Waddle to A.J. Brown, lateral move up to you. Trevion Henderson to Brian Thomas, lateral move up to you. Jalen Coker versus Tet by a mile. So I will probably go ahead and take the Breece Hall side of this if we just break this down 1 for 1, especially knowing it's a 12-team start 8 format. So all 4 of those players that you're trading for are hitting your lineup. Now, let's refresh this, get some more questions loaded in. Now, remind y'all, if y'all haven't already, hey, I will say also, my birthday's tomorrow. So if you're ever going to go down there and drop a like on this stream, your boy turns very old about 6 hours from now. So go down there, drop a like on the stream. Help us get to 300,000 subs. And don't you worry, of course, I'll be live streaming on my birthday, as we always do. Now, I Spy Joey here trading Kyler for Michael Penix. Who cares? Neither of them have value. Nico to Lamb, give me Lamb. Henry to Kyron, give me Kyron. You're paying Travis Hunter to get it done. So, yeah, I'd go ahead. I would take the CeeDee Lamb side of this. Now, Return the Fab says, is this enough an upgrade at quarterback and running back / flex to get Rice? Walker to Chase Brown, lateral move. Justin Fields to Rice. Give me Rice easily, especially if you have Caleb already through the bye. So, Yeah, I'd go ahead and make this move. Obviously, Kenneth Walker had a much, much better offense. But realistically speaking, if we go through and we look at what you have with like the workload, Walker's playing half the snaps in Seattle and Chase Brown's getting almost everything in Cincy. So we'll go for it. Now, Ray's Vert trading Jordan Mason, Pickens, and the Big Q for Breece and Rice. Breece and Rice are the best and second best players in this deal. And coming out of the bye week, Aaron Jones is going to be closer to returning. So realistically, you don't really have much interest in valuing Jordan Mason as anything. So yeah, you go Breece and Rice. But it looks like we hit 700 likes in this stream. So let's go ahead and let's send out some more free questions in the chat. Again, if you wanted to qualify to win free questions, it's stupid simple. All you got to do is drop a like on the live stream and then drop your flockfantasy.com username in the chat. That way, if you win, I know who to send those questions to. And also, if you wanted to get guaranteed free questions, you can always do so by taking advantage of the offer that we have on Underdog Fantasy, where if you go over to Underdog Fantasy and use promo code FLOCK, you are going to get $100 added to your account after you play your first 5. And on top of that, you'll get a free Jalen Hurts gimme pick for tonight's game. Higher, lower, half a total yard. Underdog Fantasy's available in almost every single state. And you can find that link in the description as well as the live chat. And you'll get free questions to the live streams. I mean, you can tell that we are just answering nonstop free questions. For 3+ hours a day. But let's send this over to Arav. Okay, let me see if I can find you, or this is A-Rock. Just found you. Just sent you over a free start set question. Really appreciate you hanging out with us in the live stream, my friend. Okay. Now, the Zlick Puma. Here, give me Jordan Love over Bo Nix. The Packers project to be the highest scoring offense in the league this week. It's not like you have a ton of rushing upside at this point with Bo. Running back, give me ETN over Scat. Wide receiver, we're going to go with Chase and Tet. I think you play, you bench Scat here with Tracy being back into this being a tough matchup. Now, Quiet Storm trading Judkins and Igbuka for St. Brown and Matthew Golden. I think you would need more if you're selling Igbuka at this point, especially in a happy BR format where Judkins going to crush. Now, Sir Crunch trading Barkley and A.J. Brown for Javonte and Rashee Rice. I still view Barkley in a different tier than Javonte Williams. I would clearly rather have Rashee Rice over A.J. Brown. But for me, I'm going to roll with the Eagles side of this. I wouldn't fault you whatsoever if you wanted to go with Rice, though. Okay. Okay, now let's move this over to our next one. This is from Wakil, trading Flowers and Mason Taylor for Myers and Laporta. Tight end, we have Ertz and Mason Taylor at this point. Wide receiver, we have Nico, Rice coming back soon, Pittman. We have solid running back depth for the flex. So I actually like this idea, going through and getting the upgrade at tight ends. Because realistically, the points per game gap that you're going to get between Flowers and Myers really doesn't matter in a 10-team, 2 wide receiver, 1 flex. Now, let's move this over to our next one. This is Cade Kerr, quarterback between Daniel Jones and Dak Prescott. I'm going to go with Daniel Jones with the rushing upside. You don't have Lamb back yet. Really like the matchup for both QBs. And then at RB, I'm going to go between Chase Brown and Michael Carter. It's really just those two names that we're looking at. I'm not super excited about either one. I have Chase Brown at 24, Michael Carter at 22 in my ranks this week. So realistically, it's up to you. Maybe you go Carter, but I'm less excited about Carter whenever you do end up getting back. I'm sorry, whenever Kyler's out. I'm sorry. The fiance so her in-laws just got to town and they brought a puppy. And we have a super big dog. It's like 100 pounds and she is not nice to other dogs. Anytime we try to bring a new dog into our, like in time of dogs coming to our house, like there was a stray dog in the neighborhood that we had to like save from getting it by a car, find its owners and blah, blah, blah. Our dog tries to attack it. And my fiance thinks it's a good idea to invite her parents' puppy into the house right now. So they're at the park, quote unquote, playing. I've said like, hey, you realize our dog's going to attack this dog, right? And I can't help because I'm live streaming. So, yeah, but she's just sent me a video and it looks like they're getting along at the park. Yeah, survival of the fittest. My 100-pound dog versus their 15-pound puppy. We'll see. We'll see who wins. Rez says you have to teach the dog he's not the alpha. She knows she isn't. She knows I'm the alpha, but she doesn't think that with the other dogs. Now, let's move this over. CT Reed. I would go Juwan Johnson over Andrews. Bauer's going to miss. Both these tight ends are buns, though. And then looking at the potential flex, you have no Rice, you have no Mooney, you have no Bowers. It's like DeMarcus Robinson, you have no Aaron Jones or Vidal. We are going to go with Vidal and hope that he is the guy. But obviously it is just a guess. Like we have no idea. Now, White Mamba, quarterback Daniels over Stafford easily with the rushing upside. Now going over to the flex between Travis Etienne, Ladd, and Olave and Higgins, I think you just play the safe option. You go with Etienne. And we need to log back in to keep this show going. Okay. Now let's move this back. And let's move this over. So the fiance says they're getting along, which is good because it is nerve-wracking having this little puppy. Okay, White Mamba here. Like we said, you go Daniels at quarterback, and then you go Etienne at the flex. Now, Ben 101, always happy to see you. Wide receiver, you mean Devontae Adams over A.J. Brown, and then for the two flex spots, how we're going to play Travis Etienne and A.J. Brown. So obviously, I would go ahead and I would move A.J. Brown to wide receiver and put Devontae Adams into the flex because a reminder to anybody watching this, if you're playing somebody in the Thursday night game, you put them in at running back, them in a wide receiver, not the flex spot. As an example, right now I have Saquon Barkley, Cam Scatterbu, Travis Etienne, Josh Jacobs as a running backs in my starting lineup this week. And I'm putting Cam Scatterbu in at RB2 rather than Josh Jacobs, just in case something happens with Jacobs later and I need to pivot to a wide receiver. Now, Evan says, trying to possibly upgrade from T, unsure to target. Let me know if there are any wideouts that you consider or swapping T for. So, I mean, obviously, if you're just looking at one-for-one names, it's super easy to just go through and look at the rankings on the site and figure out like, oh, okay, well, obviously, Mason would sell T. Higgins for DK Metcalf. He has T. Higgins wide receiver 36, DK Metcalf wide receiver 24 rest of season. But going through and looking at like another, okay, so I will say in general, if you were to go through it, if you were to sell T. Higgins, with a Terry McLaurin injury, like, you are not in a super good spot when it comes to what we have with our depth at wide receiver. Like, it's a 14-team league, so I actually wouldn't mind if you could maybe just move over to a wide receiver in a similar range as T. Higgins rather than somebody that's viewed as a clear upgrade, and get back another depth starter, either at running back or wide receiver. So, like, looking at examples of this, obviously I'd sell T. Higgins straight up for Jalen Waddle. I'd sell T. Higgins straight up for Zay Flowers. I'd sell T. Higgins straight up for Quentin Johnston. I'd sell him straight up for Devonta Smith. I'd sell him, like, for Addison, right? Addison's very similar in our rankings, and maybe somebody thinks that they would rather have T. Higgins over Jordan Addison straight up. So you could offer T. Higgins and maybe some fab dollars, or T. Higgins in a small piece, and try to get the combination of Jordan Addison and, like, Michael Carter, right? Where this team is Jacoby Myers, maybe we can try to send, like, hey, you're not going to get to Corey Krosky-Merritt, so ignore me there. I would sell T. Higgins for Michael Pittman. If you wanted to sell T. Higgins for, like, Keenan Allen and Hassan Haskins, I would look to do that as well. So, like, picking up another small piece in a league like yours where we've had the injuries and depth is going to matter, I wouldn't mind at all. Now, let's move over to our next question. And actually, Evan, let me make sure I send you over a free trade question just in case there's anything else that you want to follow up with this. And C. Peterson, I'll send you over a free question as well if there's anything that you want to follow up with. But it says, just made this trade. I got Montgomery. My league has Olave and Pollard on the waiver wire. Who should we drop for them? Also, probably need a tight end for Bowers. Absolutely love this deal, assuming that we're okay at quarterback. And yeah, you have Fields. So looking at the waiver wire options at this point, I would go ahead. If Trey Benson was actually on your roster, I would cut Trey Benson in favor of Tony Pollard. If not, I think you just cut T. Higgins for Chris Olave. And then you may have to cut Rachaad White for Hunter Henry or Kyle Pitts to get the viable tight end here in the short term. But yeah, I would make as many 2-for-1 deals as possible with your team just because the waiver wire plays are so good that if you can go through and if you can pick up somebody that has any excitement whatsoever for free, it'll make a 2-for-1 deal look like a no-brainer for you at the end of the day. Now, Bryn is able, here at wide receiver, give me Jacoby Myers with no Bowers. And then in the flex spots, we're going to go with Alvin Kamara and Godwin if he plays, Dobbs if he doesn't. So plan A, Chris Godwin. Plan B, Romeo Dobbs. Okay. Crosby, running back, between Kenneth Walker and Chase Brown. It's close. I'm going to go Brown in a full PPR format. He'll have the target volume. Tight end, give me Hunter Henry. And then for the flex, I guess you're playing both running backs. You're going to go with Kenneth Walker. Obviously, I'm not a big Kenneth Walker guy, given the usage that we have between him and Zach Charbonnet. And the receiving involvement has fallen dramatically for Kenneth Walker so far this season. Now, CTW Reed trading Henderson, Brian Robinson, and JSN for Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, Javonte, and Rashee Rice. Okay. JSN to Rice downgrade, Henderson to Javonte upgrade, Brian Robinson to JCM upgrade. How bad do you need the running? Yeah, you need the running back production. So if you had a losing record, I'm completely fine with you making this move. Actually, honestly, it's kind of irrelevant of losing or a winning record. Because if we're looking at what we have with Henderson long-term piece and Rice long-term piece as well. So with your team, I'm okay making this. Now, Mysterious Director, here for the flex. No Evans, no Nico, no Mason, no Marks. So it's Kareem Hunt, RJ Harvey, or Darren Waller. Because my team, I'd rather go RJ Harvey, but realistically, knowing what most people would say is most people would say you play Darren Waller. Is where Darren Waller's had the touchdowns lately. Okay. Now, Irony Man, here at wide receiver. We have Marv. We have Quentin Johnston and Marv as the plays, even with no Kyler. And then for the flex, I would really hope that he had a running back that we could look at, but realistically, you don't really. I think I'd play Trey Tucker over like Miller and RJ Harvey. If Kamara misses, then obviously you go with Miller, but hard to project that to be the case right now. Okay. Now, our next name is going to be from Brett. Trading Quentin Johnston for Trevion Henderson and Ricky Pearsall. Wide receiver, we have Rome, Adams, London. So we're just fine. 2 wide receiver, 1 flex format. And honestly, this team could use the long-term upside of Trevion Henderson. So for your team with your league settings, then yes, I would go ahead. I would make this move. Okay. Now let's move over to our next question. This is Devon Achane and Garrett Wilson versus JSN and Derrick Henry. Achane to JSN, give me Achane. Wilson to Henry, give me Wilson. So I'd rather have the Achane side of this. Again, Derrick Henry has been god-awful. Don't get me wrong, I'm expecting it to get better. But I don't know how you could be excited about starting Derrick Henry. Okay. No. Let's move over to our next one. If it was, I guess it's a half PPR format, so it's a little bit closer. If it was a non-PPR league, we would do it. Now, B-Dub with our next question. Trading Rachaad White, JCM, and Josh Downs for Bucky Irving. You'd make this deal for Bucky Irving in a heartbeat. Like, I can't imagine not wanting Bucky here. Especially if you have Michael Carter that you can play in the short term anyway. Okay. Now, let's move over to our next one. This is Egbuka and Harvey versus CeeDee Lamb. Give me CeeDee Lamb in the long term, Egbuka in the short term. Leftover at running back, we'd have Jalen Warren, Trevion Henderson, Hassan Haskins, Ja'Cory Cross-Garrett, Rico Dowdle. So we don't have a ton of great running back pieces. If you have a winning record, I'm okay with you doing this, but realistically speaking, obviously you are taking on a lot of risk. You're taking on a lot of risk if you make this move. Okay. Now, J-Mart, and we just hit 800 likes on the stream, so we need to go through. We need to send out some more free questions. Again, super easy to qualify to win free questions. All you got to do is drop a like on the live stream and then drop your flockfantasy.com username in the chat. That way, if you win, I know who to send it to. And also, of course, if you wanted to get guaranteed free questions for these live streams, you can always do so by taking advantage of the offer on Underdog Fantasy. I mean, I have been with Underdog for 5 years, and this is by far and away the best offer I've ever seen them do, which is you play $5, you get $100 added to your account with promo code FLOCK. And on top of that, you're going to get a free Jalen Hurts pick as well, higher, lower, half a total yard for tonight's game. Underdog Fantasy is available in almost every single state. You can find that link in the description as well as the live chat. And you'll get free questions that you can ask in these live streams. And you can see just very clearly that I spend like 3 hours a day answering free questions. But let's send this free question out to Dark Ruler. See if I can find you on the site, my friends. Just found you. Just sent you over a free start sit. Again, really appreciate you hanging out with us in this stream. Now, J Mark, give me Caleb over Bo. Running back, Kyron and Genty. Wide receiver, give me Wilson and Keenan. And then tight end, give me McBride. You can't rely on Chris Godwin over like Devonta Smith this week. You just play Smith. Now, Will, with our next one. Running back, we're going to go ahead. We're going to take Michael Carter. Wide receiver, give me London and Brian Thomas. And then for the flex, if Kyler doesn't play, I probably go Diggs over Marv. If Kyler plays, I guess you probably go Diggs anyway, because even if Kyler does play, you're most likely looking at him being being a little bit worse off. Okay. Now, K. Bryant says, wait for BB/Lamb to be okay. Wait for Bowers to pick up a tight end. Okay, so Bowers going to be out. Like, I think you can safely go ahead and pick him up anyway, to be honest. Here for the flex, you're probably playing. You have no Rice, you have no Lamb. You probably play Ridley. And then in terms of who you drop to pick up the tight end, you're probably dropping Travis Hunter. Actually, no, you drop Byshell Tootin. Drop Byshell Tootin and pick up a different tight end. Because again, I would be very, very surprised if you end up getting a Brock Bowers playing this week. Expectations will be that he's not. Okay, let's move over to our next question. This is May for Prez. Here for the flex, we have no Lamb. You play Swift. Like, Swift's giving you just the consistent volume over a large stretch. He's been the RB27, the RB22, the RB23, and the RB20 in games that he's played. So I think you just play, like, Michael Carter takes on a lot more risk than DeAndre Swift will. Like, you have a large sample with Swift at this point. Okay. Now, C. Sturmer, quarterback between Dak and Daniel Jones. Give me Daniel Jones. Both are in great spots, though. Daniel Jones gives you a little more rushing upside. Wide receiver, no Lamb, no Addison. I would play Trey Tucker here, to be honest. I mean, if Jalen Coker plays, I understand the appeal given the matchup against Dallas and how good he looked at the end of last season. But I'd probably go Trey Tucker and Vidal. And if you wanted to pivot to Coker, I think they need to tell us, like, hey, he's going to be 100%. Don't worry. Now, our next one's going to be from Gunkhead says, did this trade earlier today, had Bijan and got Puka. So he flipped it. So again, when you, this is just for anybody submitting, not necessarily just you, but and yeah, make sure y'all like labeling the right sides, like the they receive and the I receive. I'll say in general, like I have Puka higher than Bijan in my rest of season rankings, unless you are desperate for running back production. Like Puka Nacua doesn't just project to be the wide receiver one every single week. He projects to be the wide receiver one by a landslide too. Now Ortiz, here for the flex. You play Tet. Actually, no, you play Rachaad White. Rachaad White and Tet are both in really good spots. Obviously, White you get guaranteed volume with. But if you're looking at what we have with Tet, you'd really want to get him in just given the matchup you have against Dallas. Now, McLovin, running back, give me Dowdle. Tight end, give me Henry. And then for the flex, we're going to go with ETN. Private Median didn't put anything that they were trading, so I'm going to send you over a free trade question voucher so you can resubmit. Nico trading Dowdle, Bucky, Jennings for Brees and Brian Thomas. Bucky to Brees, give me Brees. He's healthy, and at the same time, you have the bell cow usage. And then Jennings to Brian Thomas, give me Brian Thomas. Paying Dowdle to get it done, though, and one way that you can view this is you can say, well, like, realistically, if you have no Hubbard and you have no Bucky this week Dowdle should be comparable to Brees Hall. And then long-term, once you get Bucky back in, he will be better than Brees Hall. If you think Bucky only misses one more week, it's the Bucky side. If you think Bucky's going to miss more time than that, it's the Brees side. Now, B-Dub here at quarterback, you're going to go with Fields and Darnold. I don't think Kyler's going to play. Tight end Hunter Henry over Evan Ingram. Okay. And then looking at what we have on the waiver wire, you probably just go ahead and play Ja'Cory Cross-Merritt. Again, I'm treating JCM very similar to how we did with Woody Marks last week, where it's like this dude has a lot of upside, but he's not necessarily guaranteed to be anything. So I'm not telling anybody that they have to play him, but I definitely think you can play him here. Now, Thadance, a running back. Kenneth Walker, Ja'Cory Cross-Merritt's tough because with Walker, he's in a running back by committee himself. I do have JCM at RB21. I have Walker at 25. Tight end, Mason Taylor. And then in the two flex spots, I'm going to go A.J. Brown and Jalen Waddle over Kenneth Walker, who's I'm getting out-snapped and out-touched by Zach Charbonnet at this point. Okay. Now let's refresh this, see if we have some more questions coming in. We've had I don't know if a bunch of people use code FLOCK and Underdog over the past few days to get vouchers or something, but we have been getting a ton of questions. Like every day we've been logging on and have 100 plus start sit / trade questions waiting. Now Bucks to the bowl here at tight ends. We're going to go with Dallas Goedert tonight over Theo Johnson and Harold Fannin. Hope that the touchdown efficiency keeps up. And then for the flex, I know a lot of people are going to say go with Miller, but if Kamara plays, I don't think I can tell you to play the RB2 in one of the league's worst offenses. I'd probably rather play Sharp than Harvey. Downs versus Trey Tucker. I have Trey Tucker higher in my rankings. I think Sharp's the floor play. Trey Tucker's the ceiling play. Now McLovin with our next one. Trading Dowdle and Hubbard for Derrick Henry. Short term, you'd rather have the Dowdle and Hubbard side pretty easily. Long term, if you get Hubbard back in, what may end up happening is this may end up being a running back by committee here, where you may end up seeing Dowdle and Hubbard split this backfield effectively 50-50. So short term, give me the Panthers backs. Long term, give me Derrick Henry, especially knowing that Lamar is going to be back eventually. Unger trading Lamb for Judkins and Pittman. I would rather have Lamb unless you're 0-5 or 1-4. What's brewing? Go with Waddle and Sutton. Insiders, actually, crap. You have the running backs that are just going to be guaranteed usage. So realistically, I probably go with Waddle with how good the projections are. And then at running back, I think you have to play Dowdle and Rachaad White. And if Hubbard plays, then you can pivot over to Sutton. Now, Too Many Dubs says, made dumb trades in the beginning, and now we have injuries. Don't know who to start, plus Jake Tonks. Do not put him in the flex, for the love of God. Unless you're just horribly off. Yeah, you play Zay Flowers over A.J. Brown over Jake Tonks in the flex easily. Um, yeah, I think that this is an easy spot. You just play Zay Flowers and AJ Brown. Don't overthink it. Obviously, I'm not super excited about either one of them, but still better than the other options for sure. Now, Nidell trading Etienne, Keenan, and Evans for Nico and Rice. You're upgrading 2 wide receiver spots dramatically here, and you just got to pay Etienne to get it done. 14-team league, the depth's going to matter a bit, so I understand. That Etienne's going to go at a premium, but still, I think I'd rather have Nico and Rice. Now, Smoke and Beef trading Ginty for Hampton and Nico. I'd rather have Hampton and Nico. I have Nico and Ginty next to each other in our rest of season ranks. So if you get Hampton for free, I think go the Hampton side. Now, Logan Baum trading Walker, Keon, Isaiah Bond. Isaiah Bond's a little 0 for Chuba and Evans. Yeah, I think you upgrade 2 spots. And again, Isaiah Bond's not even worth a roster spot in most leagues. Box Papa, running back, give me Kamara and Etienne. Wide receiver, we're going to go with Ladd and Waddle. And then in the flex spots, I think you go with Devonta Smith. Just play Smith at wide receiver and move Waddle down to the flex since he plays tonight. And then you probably go Ja'Cory, Krosky, Merritt. Now, Thin Blue Line says 3-2. Who would you rather have rest of season? I'd rather have Javonte Williams at this point. I mean, it's close. I have them RB14 and RB15 in my rest of season ranks. But Javante's at this point in a better offense. He's been a more efficient running back. He has a better receiving role. So I think you have to go with Javonte. Now, in real, trading Lamb for Derrick Henry and Rashee Rice. So league in which depth matters if it is a 12-team start 8 format. So realistically, if you need running back help, I think that this is a completely fine trade to make. Now, obviously, if you're going to make this deal and then Derrick Henry is going to go to your bench, you have no reason to do it. But if you need running back production, it's a fair move. Now, Lito with our next one. Wide receiver, you play Keenan Allen. Tight end, you go Mason Taylor. And then we're going to go Derrick Henry and Devonta Smith. I mean, Hassan Haskins would be my bet to be the guy in Los Angeles, but by no means are we confident with it. You very easily could see it be Vidal. So I don't want to tell anybody to play Hassan Haskins the first weekend. Zach says, I have Jabbar McMillan now. Is this a good trade for a solidified wide receiver too? It's a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex format. So realistically, the depth doesn't matter much. So yeah, I'd go ahead and make this move because we have the solid options at running back too. Now let's move this over to our next one. This is from Zacho. Yeah. Says, I have Jamar McMillan. Actually, no, I thought let's hit next question. Did that unload? Perfect. Schmunk trading Hurts, Smith, London for Lamar, Rice, and Tet. Hurts to Lamar down tier, London to Rice down tier, Smith to Tet up tier. I think it's a very fair trade. If you were going for the Lamar and Rice side, you would for sure need to have a winning record because obviously you are losing here in this short term. So losing team, give me the Hurts end of this. Winning team, give me the Lamar end of this. Now, CT Reed, we have Josh Allen at quarterback. Running back, give me Gibbs and Jacobs. Wide receiver, JSN and Puka. Tight end, we have Jawan Johnson over Andrews. Bowers won't play. And then Mooney's not going to play. Rice won't play. So realistically, it's like Mark Andrews or Vidal. So we'll go Vidal. Again, I want nothing to do with putting him in our starting lineup this week. I don't want to start any of the Chargers RBs until we actually see what that backfield looks like. But realistically speaking, I think you can go ahead and you can put him in if the alternative is a bum tight end. Zay says, can I afford this? Look at the team. Wide receiver left over, you'd have Rome, Tet, Jefferson. It's a league in which the depth matters. I would say that it doesn't matter if you can quote unquote afford it or not. The value is too good. Unless this was like a 16-team league. But yeah, you go ahead and you take James Cook here pretty easily. Okay. Now, Antonio is our next question. For the flex, I think you have to play A.J. Brown over Montgomery and Jacoby Myers. I will say that, like, my interest is for sure peaked with Jacoby Myers, given the update that we have with Brock Bowers most likely missing this game, but realistically speaking, how the hell could I tell you, let's go through and let's jam him in with how bad Myers has been so far? Now, ours here for the flex, we have no Rice. We have no Bucky. We have no Benson. So it's Hollywood, Travis Hunter, Hassan Haskins, or Zach Charbonnet. So obviously, I want to avoid saying this as much as possible. I think Haskins is in play. I'd probably still go Sharbs, where that game environment should actually have a decent amount of points scored in it. And again, Charbonnet is playing more than Kenneth Walker at this point. Okay. But let's move something over. Give me 1 second. And I think we're catching up on all the questions, so we should be able to send out some more free questions in the chat soon. Now, Marine with a trade. Says, if this isn't great, who else could we upgrade for? No, this is great. 100%. 2 wide receiver, 1 flex with the depth's not going to matter that much. If you're able to send like Brees and Jacoby to go ahead and get Achane, you do it easily. 100%. Okay. Let's move this over to our next one. This is Dark Ruler here for the flex between Chase Brown and Michael Carter. I have them like 2 spots apart. I probably go with Michael Carter because you still do have like the Bengals, even with Flacco, projecting to be the worst offense in the league this week against Green Bay. Alex says, just signed up on Underdog with code FLOCK and put in a $5 entry. How long does it take to get the vouchers? So you will get them tomorrow morning. Every morning, Underdog sends me an email of a CSV with all the email addresses that signed up to Underdog Fantasy with code FLOCK the day before. I upload that CSV to flockfantasy.com and it searches in every account that has the same email address to the one that was made on Underdog Fantasy, because that's the one that they send me. That's the one that they have. Those accounts get accredited with the free vouchers. So you should get it tomorrow morning. They send me that email at about 8 a.m. CST. And then I have a meeting at 9 a.m. CST. So I'll definitely be on my computer by then at the very minimum. So at the very minimum, you'll get it by like 9:30 a.m. CST. Okay. Bucks to the Bull says, hey Mason, if I use my team review voucher, how backed up are you? Thanks. I will most likely get to it on Saturday. Actually, not Saturday. I'll most likely get to it. It would either be tomorrow or Saturday, depending on how many start, sit, and trades get sent in. A lot of people have been taking advantage of the Underdog offer. So as you can tell, we've just had a ridiculous amount of start, sit, and trade free questions that we've been having to go through. But at the very latest, it will be Saturday. It's definitely not going to be, and at the very earliest, it'll be tomorrow. Okay. Now, big jogging. Alex says, if I use the different email on Flock than on Underdog, can I email support and have that switched? It may not be done in time. What I would do is I would just create a temporary account on flockfantasy.com with whatever email address you used on Underdog, and then get the free vouchers on that one and send in the questions from that account, be honest. Connor says, hats are fire, Mason. Appreciate getting this for us. Yeah, I actually really like that too. I think they're a lot better than the old ones we used to have. Like, I really like the tan on tan. This is my favorite. And this isn't like a sticker. This is like actually embroidered into the hat. So it's nicer than how it just kind of looks 2D. Like it looks like it's printed on the camera, but it's embroidered. So I think you'll like them a lot, my guy. And it's gonna be a lot of work to get those shipped out. And I told the lady that she's gonna have to help me shipping out 2,500 hats. Which obviously she's a team player. She's the best. But she's not the best at understanding numbers. So whenever I tell her 2,500 hats, I don't think she fully like comprehends how many hats that is that we are going to have to ship out and how long it's going to take. So while we're doing it, she's probably not going to be super happy with me. But big jogging, trading Keenan and Kittle for Devontae Adams. We have Tyler Warren. So if you have Tyler Warren, I'm okay with this. I really don't like selling Kittle at the low point. But realistically speaking, if you had a losing record, like I understand you having to make that pivot. Okay, now let's look at this from Fireball. Quarterback, give me Daniel Jones over Bo Nix. And they're walking back with that new puppy, and my dog is going to go insane on that one if her food bowl's down. So I'm going to have to pick her food bowl up and put it on the counter so the puppy doesn't try to get to it. Give me 1 second to go move that food bowl so my dog doesn't attack this puppy. Okay, I'm sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. But here, this next question from Fireball. Let me see what the updated projections are with Ja'Cory Cross-Kamara, because previous to Tracy playing in this game, I would have told you to play Cam Scatterbo over JCM kind of easily. Now the projections with Scat, he's higher, lower, 11.55 fantasy points. What is Ja'Cory Cross-Kamara sitting at? JCM's higher, lower, 77.5 total yards. What was Scat again? Scat's higher, lower, 68.5. Scat's going to have a larger role as a receiver. That's the thing. We've seen a larger sample with Scat too. So if it's a full PPR format, actually this is a half PPR league. That sucks. It's a coin flip in a half PPR league. I'm probably still going to stand by Scat, but it's a lot closer now. Okay. Now, going over and looking at tight end, you're going to play Darren Waller. Bauer's going to miss. And then for your flex, full PPR format, I go with the receiver, but half PPR league, I think I can go with JCM. Now, Kuva, trading JCM, Pickens, and Mason Taylor for Lamar and Bowers. So Lamar and Bowers, if you can wait for the long term. Obviously, having to wait through their injuries is going to suck, but they will be the winning pieces in the long term. I think Bowers has the week 8 bye. So realistically, you're probably not going to see Bowers until week 9, I would guess. Because if he's not playing this week, I don't know if you're going to have them rushing back for week 7. Teal Superset says, hey, when do you usually do the Dynasty team reviews? Usually like on a Saturday or a Friday. So tomorrow's my birthday, so I know I told the fiance we'd go to dinner. But outside of that, I'll have a normal work day, of course, as we do every day. So usually Fridays and Saturdays when I have the extra hour or two where I can do the Dynasty stream. Now, Private Median trading Etienne, Nico for Jacobs and Rice. So Nico to Jacobs upgrade, Etienne to Rice upgrade. So yeah, I would do this. Now what's brewing? Trading Brees for Brian Thomas and Chris Olave. I'd rather have Brees here in a vacuum. How down bad are you a receiver? We have Chase, Jacoby that we can play. We have Achane, Jacobs. I understand the thought process of this. If it was a 12-team start 8 format, maybe we go for it. But here with the 10-team league, I would assume that honestly, you should have some options that you can look at off waivers. So I think instead, I would actually just hold on to the best piece, which should be Breece Hall. Now, Evan Jevin says, with this trade, who would you add that I could have on my roster? Both people who have Zay and Waddle said they want to keep their teams. If you were adding something to this, obviously Brashad Smith would be an easy one. Christian Watson would be an easy one. Torrey Horton would be an easy one. All those would be no-brainers if they had any interest in them. And then your best offer, we would be offering Miller added on to Higgins. But I mean, I would still go through and I would trade these two pieces for Michael Carter and Addison easily. Given the context that, like, I would rather have Addison straight up over Higgins rest of season. Let me see if the team in my league that has Addison needs a wide receiver for this week and they'd play T. Higgins. As maybe I can go through and I can offer them that swap. Okay. They have Michael Carter and Darnell Mooney in. Yeah. Spam the chat. Who would you rather have rest of season? T. Higgins or Jordan Addison? Because I may go ahead and offer Higgins for Addison in my league. On the site, they're wide receiver 35, wide receiver 37. Addison, 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 T, Addison, 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 Addison. Okay. Yeah. Let me go ahead and offer Nathan. Let's offer T. Higgins for Jordan Addison myself and see what comes from it. Actually, I'm going to message him too. I think, like, right now, he doesn't have anybody he can put in his lineup for this week. Yeah, I'm going to offer Higgins for Addison. He has Jefferson on bye. Okay. Now, mixtape running back, Judkins and Rico Dowdle here easily with no Hubbard. And then down in the flex, you probably end up playing Ja'Cory Cross-Merit over Kenneth Walker. Okay. Now, Aluxis trading Judkins and Tet for Saquon Barkley. 2 wide receiver, 1 flex. Left. Here's the thing. I would say a lot of teams should do this, but your wide receiver room would then be Jefferson, Jennings, and Hunter. So you're relying either on Travis Hunter or Juwan Jennings every week. So even if I like the Barkley side, you have to hold on to the wide receiver depth. Now, Preston, here for the flex spot. We're going to go ahead and take Rico Dowdle over Cam Scat now that you have Tracy playing, and it looks like you will not have Chuba Hubbard. Let's refresh, see if we have any more questions to get through. Now, aftermath, quarterback, you're probably playing it on Herbert here. Should have a decent amount of passing volume post Hampton and Najee injuries. Wide receiver, we're going to go with the combo of Wilson, Rome, and actually, no, you may have to bench Wilson this week. I think you go London and Tet in the flexes instead. This is a phenomenal team. Most weeks, I probably play Wilson over Tet, but Tet has the matchup against Dallas this week. Hamburglar trading Lawrence and Ladd for Caleb Williams. Dynasty Superflex League. Yeah, I'll take Caleb here. Now, G Money, a running back between Chase Brown, Swift, Scat. I'm going to go with Swift. Tight end, you'll have to pick somebody up here. I probably drop, if you have to drop one of these names, it's gross. You probably drop either Jameson Williams or Ricky Pearsall. And then you go Cam Scat in the other flex. Okay. And let me go ahead, pull up some more of the team reviews, because obviously we still have team reviews that we need to get through. Okay. Come on, load for me. Please, website, load. There we go. Okay, we're going to skip by some of the dynasty teams. This is a screenshot, so we had moved past it previously, but we can pull it up now. And my dog, I can already tell, is acting up. I'm going to have to pull the dog into the room. Mila, come on, get in here. Come on, get in here. No, she'll want to be here. Come on, you can come in here. Good girl. I know. You're a good girl. Okay, y'all want to see the little vicious beast? Hey, you want to come tell him hi? You want to come say hi? Come over here. You and go, no doggies can come in my house because I'll attack them, even if they're small puppies. Come over here. I know. She's not super nice, so don't mess with our house. Well, we got a dog. All right. Now, anyway, 12-team Superflex. The roster is Dylan Gabriel, Jake Browning, Darnold, Lamb, Pickens, Rome, JSN, Debo, Kittle, Theo Johnson. Got offered Mahomes, Rattler, Michael Carter, Shaheed, sending Lamb, Browning, Pickens, Kittle. You can't make this deal. 100%. I like the idea of going through and upgrading at quarterback, but that kind of price tag is just way too high for us to do so. Let me go ahead and pull up the exact screenshots of this team, especially as we go through and we look at this roster. I mean, you're not super well off. Like, you're not super deep on this. Quarterback, we have Darnold and then Dylan Gabriel. I guess actually, no, we have Bijan and Rome. So it just looked very rough given the fact that they were on bye. But running back 1, we'll have Bijan. Running back 2, we'll have Judkins. Long-term wide receiver, we're going to have Pickens, JSN, Debo Samuel. Then we'll have CeeDee Lamb. We have George Kittle here in the long term. So I agree with you. Ultimately, the move that you want to be making here is we want to be trying to make a play to get an upgrade at QB. Just realistically speaking, I don't exactly agree with the sentiment that we should be sending these top assets. Like, if you're sending CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, and George Kittle, you need to get Josh Allen in return, not Mahomes. Like, my counter, I would say that in the Superflex League, Lamb and Mahomes are going to be comparable in value. Like, I don't think you need to be including also George Kittle onto this. I don't think you need to be including also George Pickens onto it. I think you're just dramatically overpaying at that point, because Rattler does nothing for us. Shaheed does nothing for us. So my offer in a league like this is if you could go through and if you could instead package in a 2-for-1 deal, the combination of like George Pickens and Dylan Gabriel, and go get a quarterback, even just like, I mean, I was going to say Purdy, but obviously let me pull up the quarterback rankings on this site just so we can get a better sense of like the range that we want to be going for. Or if you were going to make that trade for Mahomes, you have to keep Pickens in that. You can't afford to trade Pickens and CeeDee Lamb. But looking at the rest of season rankings at QB, the range that I would be going for here personally is if you could sell Pickens and Dylan Gabriel and get to any quarterback in B tier, whether that's Mahomes, Baker, Caleb, May, Fields, Herbert, Dak, Daniel Jones, Jared Goff. Like, I don't see a massive difference between Justin Fields and Patrick Mahomes and fantasy football. I don't see a massive difference between Dak Prescott and Mahomes. So instead of paying up, I would rather just keep the elite wide receiver and send like a depth wide receiver 2 and go ahead and get the upgraded quarterback that way and just get a marginal like low end QB1, high end QB2, rather than just selling out and making the massive trade for the elite QB1. But outside of that, if you can make that minor trade where we just go ahead and send the wide receiver depth piece and we go and get an upgrade to like again, you send George Pickens and you get Justin Herbert instead, I think I would opt to go ahead and make that move. But I really appreciate you. Let me go ahead and send you over some free questions just in case there's anything else that you want to follow up with. And I'd be super happy to take a look at it for you, my friend. But let's move this to our next question. This one's going to be coming out from F. Valicia. Says, currently sitting at 2-3. My running back room is trash. We just lost Neighbors in Hampton. Lots of injuries. What moves should we make? So 2-3 roster. You're not to the point yet where we do have to just go full-blown panic where you are selling all your long-term value for short-term production. But definitely we need to start thinking about how we win now. Now, looking at what we have at quarterback, we have Matthew Stafford in here. This looks like it's a very weird league in terms of quarterback scoring. I'm going to assume that there's some point per completion element to this. Maybe the passing yards are scored differently in this league than a normal one. And the reason for that is Stafford is projected to score 25 points. So usually when you have that weird quarterback scoring element where it's like a point per completion league, that's what it typically is if the quarterback projects to score like 45, right? So realistically speaking, in a normal league in which quarterback scoring is going to be very much reliant on the rushing upside of said quarterback, I would say here, I would probably want to go ahead and I'm sorry, I'm thinking. I would want to build around the quarterback that gives you a lot of passing volume rather than instead the quarterback that's going to just give you the rushing upside. Like here, Matthew Stafford may be the exact kind of player that you want in this league. Running back, we have Judkins, Montgomery. Down on the bench, long-term, we have Hampton. We have Woody Marks. And you have Lamar. So here's the thing that's super interesting. If Lamar plays, he scores 45 points. Like, what's his projection? I mean, his projection's 45. If Stafford plays, his projection's 45. So there's definitely some element to this where you're getting points per completion or you're getting additional points per passing yards. So what I would look to do is I would look to try to sell Lamar Jackson. On a team like this where you have Judkins as your RB1, David Montgomery as your RB2, Jawan Johnson at tight end. Obviously, the team in the long term is going to be so much better, especially at wide receiver where we have Lamb, Tet, and Rashee Rice. And we have George Kittle. This team's great if it can at least stay in the fight for now. I would just simply try to make a trade to get the best running back possible. And the way that we are doing that is trying to send Lamar Jackson in a 2-for-1 deal with Montgomery and a 2-for-1 deal with Judkins. Outside of that, I don't necessarily think that you need to be trading for a wide receiver. I don't think you need to be trading for a tight end, because realistically, we have enough production where we can get by at those positions for now. And then if we go ahead and we look at what we have in the long term, you have Kittle, you have Rice, you have Lamb, so you have plenty of, upside in the long term as well. So just simply, I would go ahead. I would sell Lamar with a running back to get to the best RB that you can. If you wanted to sell a depth wide receiver with them, if you wanted to send Chris Olave, then sure, let's go for it. But obviously, that's not going to be as much of a priority. But I really appreciate you and really hope I was able to help you out in some way with this, my friend. And again, thank you so much for being a member of the flock. Now, this is a dynasty team from Cole. So, god dang, look at this little dog. She wants, do you want to go play with that puppy? Is that what you're bothering me with? Or are you trying to go attack that puppy? What are you trying to do here? What are you trying to do? Can you lay down? Can you not just lay down? Are you trying to leave this room? I know. Okay. Let's check this out for Thus Be Aaron. Yeah, Phil says I see evil in those eyes. There is evil in those eyes. Acting like she wants to attack. She's acting like, oh, I want to go play. I want to go out there. I want to see the other doggy. Why do I have to be in here? No, she's going, let me at him. Let me out of here. Let me go get him. Now, Thus Be Aaron says, my team seems very mid. Made a terrible trade today before the Bengals traded for Flacco and traded away Chase. Hoping I can somehow get some trade advice for what can happen to save my season. So you're second in this league in value, my guy. I will say in general, depth doesn't matter at all in your league. It's a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex, 8 team format. So depth is meaningless. The only thing that matters with these names is ceiling. So we have Gibbs, we have Jacobs, we have Judkins. So Judkins is the perfect example of a player that obviously is crushing, right? Where you can be super excited about Quinshon Judkins in most leagues and most setups. But if our number one priority is thinking about upside, it may be capped with Quinshon, knowing that he plays on the Browns and he's not going to be a super high level receiver. So 12-team format, you should be super excited about Quinshon Judkins. But in an 8-team league where he's our our running back 3, I would love to sell Judkins and Justin Fields and go get Josh Allen. I would love to try to send Judkins and Ladd McConkey and go get CeeDee Lamb and just go ahead and make that play for the true elite level names that you can find at the top. Then over at quarterback, again, we have Fields and Love. I'd be very excited about this in the context of it being a 12-teamer, but in an 8-team league, it's just not as strong. Then looking over at tight end, we have Jake Ferguson. We have Tucker Kraft. We feel good about that. I think you can say that these tight ends do give us the upside, even in an 8-team format. But the issue is you just have, how the hell are you submitting your starting lineup weekly? How can you figure out who to put in your lineup? I think you need to go through and you need to make some 2-for-1 deals to get pieces that have insane level ceilings. Is there a world in which we can sell Ladd McConkey and Mike Evans and go and get Rashee Rice? Sell Quinshon Judkins and T. Higgins and go and get a CeeDee Lamb? Is there a world in which we can sell Quinshon Judkins and Justin Fields and go and get Josh Allen? And then in terms of waiver wire moves, Romeo Doubs, the depth wide receivers in a league like this, they don't have the ceiling to ever project to be somebody that's like, oh yeah, this is a no-brainer. You 100% know you want to get them in your lineup. So what I would do is I would cut Romeo Doubs and I would actually instead go and pick up Zach Charbonnet. Because if you were to get an injury to Kenneth Walker, then all of a sudden, Zach Charbonnet does project out to actually be a difference-making player, even in an 8-team format. So again, I think you just need to go and make those trades to try to get yourself to the range of players that are true, like elite ceiling plays, such as like CeeDee Lamb, such as Rashee Rice. And trying to think if there's anything else that we could say with this. But 8-team leagues are super simple that way. I mean, the team's not bad. It's second in this league in value. Just got to transition some of that value from security to upside. But it does look like we just hit 900 likes on the stream. So let's go ahead and let's send out some free questions. Thus, Aaron, I'm going to send you free questions as well, just in case there's anything that you want to follow up with. Again, if y'all wanted to qualify to win free questions, it's stupid simple. All you got to do is drop a like on the live stream and then drop your flockfantasy.com username in the live chat. So if you win, I know who to send the questions to. And then also, of course, if you wanted to just get guaranteed free questions, you'd always do so by taking advantage of the offers on Underdog Fantasy, where you go over to Underdog and use promo code FLOCK. You are going to get $100 added to your account after you play your first 5. And you will get a Jalen Hurts free gimme pick, higher, lower, half a total yard for tonight's game as well. It's the best Underdog promo they've ever done. We've actually had more people sign up to Underdog with code FLOCK over the past like 2 weeks than we've had in forever. I've been with them for 5 years. And yeah, I think a lot of it's because people want the $100 added in their account. And again, you'll get free questions for these live streams too. But let me go ahead and pick somebody to send a free question over to. We got Captain Condog with the classic profile pick. Appreciate you, my friend, and excited to send this over to you. Let me see if I can find you. Captain Condog, just found you. Just sent you over a free start set question. And again, thank you so much for hanging out with us in this live stream. But let's see this. Montexo trading Worthy and Tyler Warren for London and Kittle. Yeah, I think you're upgrading from Warren to London. I think you're upgrading from Worthy to Kittle. So I would do it as long as you have a winning record. What's Bruin says 2-3 need some depth. This or Brian Thomas Jr. and Chris Olave. It's a 10-team league. I would rather hold on to Breece Hall over both of them. Like, how down bad are you for depth? You have Chase and Myers that you can play right now. Like, no. I think you keep Breece and you hit the waiver wire. OG, here at wide receiver, we're going to go London. And then in the flex spots, you go with Tet, Worthy if he plays, Kenneth Walker if Xavier Worthy does not play. But we caught up on all the quick questions. I know we have some team reviews we still got to get through. So, of course, we will do that in the live stream tomorrow. But I want to remind y'all, I'll be live streaming after the game tonight, talking about everything that happens, talking about the impacts and updating rankings. So if you wanted to make it to that live stream, just make sure you're subscribed, and I will see you in about 3 hours. But I have a lot of players going in this game. I'm starting Scadaboo. I'm starting Barkley. I'm starting Dallas Goedert. So it's a big one for me. But I really appreciate y'all. Wish you the best of luck, and I really hope I get to see you out in the live stream.